And Brett on Zoom, but I'm not positive about that. We'll go ahead and start. We got a lot to do with the budget, and so we're going to turn the time over to Curtis, and Jeff is going to help him out. By the way, Jeff has put a lot of time, both Jeff and Curtis have put a lot of time and effort into this spreadsheet to help us identify and prioritize. Tonight it'll be the capital items, and so without any further ado, Curtis, if it's okay, I'll just turn the time over to you and let you kind of go to work. And
Awesome. Are we ready to project?
If she switches over.
There's a lot going on this little box. Zoom, YouTube, wireless.
So we were actually just tweaking, adding a few more filters in, trying to make this as easy, as informative, I should say. There's nothing easy about this process. I'm not going to oversell this.
No.
There's a lot of requests. We went through this last time. What we've done is taken the comments that we received back and we've incorporated those. So let's go to the analysis page. I just want to give some examples of what we're able to do in analyzing this. So, for example, the first table here is by area. What needs do they have by year? And a grand total. The next table down, which is the summary of estimated costs, this separates it out by business, general, and specific, and gives what's available. And so we can focus on that to see what the funding status is. Are we short funding? Where do we stand? Now, capital in this area, I can't necessarily break that apart, so there's one capital funding available, but I'll come back to how we can overcome this. And then down at the bottom, we have a table that's by the estimated, it's got the estimated cost by critical, high, and low, by how the departments have. Now remember, this is discussion. This is, if you don't feel like something's critical, you can classify it as high, or if you think something's more important, you move it up on the table. This is for the council to use to make decisions. So here's one thing that you can do with this sheet. If you'll click on the top one with the funding type of general, and then change that one to general. So you just took two tables. If you look at the 26 column up on the top, you'll see that the total there that people have requested, this is what the departments have said, is just shy of $7.9 million, $7.85 million. The next year, there's requests already for $3.9 million. Now, if you look at the summary, the sum of funds available, you can see what we're projecting for 26 that would be available is about $9.3 million. So, from a standpoint, the city council could look at that and say, well, we got $9.3 million. We could fund all of the 26 projects of $7.9 million for ease sake. That leaves us about $1.4 million for 27 plus whatever else is there. So 27, all of a sudden you've got a funding problem. But 26 would be satisfied. Does that make sense?
Gives you about 1.4.
Because you'd have 1.4 million. We can do the same thing with business and show this. So if you do the filter on the top one by business and the second one by business, you can see, for example, storm drain, they're looking at $120,000 needed in 25. We'll come back and talk about storm drain. That one's got some nuances. But if you look at the treatment plant, they need $7 million in $7.1 million in 26. They have $7.1 million. We have been planning this. This is one that we've paid attention to. We adjusted fees. We have been busting our tail to make sure the treatment plant works. I don't think anybody wants the treatment plant not to work. So we have enough funding there to satisfy their needs. through 27, actually. I mean, we're just shy of 27, but you see how this kind of works so you can match things up
Awesome.
and see?
Thank you.
Water, if you look at that one, they've got $1 million, or sorry, in 27, they're planning about $1.1 million. We got about 3.7 available. As you look farther out, then it's not in such good condition. This would indicate we need to consider, is our rate structure adequate to provide for those capital needs? Are we gonna be able to satisfy that demand that's coming down the road? But as far as like immediate needs for 26, yeah, but it's probably something where we gotta look at it and say, what do we do going forward? Does that kind of set the stage? And we can do this with the
Hours.
business ones are there, and you can go through and talk to department heads about their classifications of explain what their capital needs are, and the summary sheet still has all of their projects. This analysis is just designed to give quick hits, looks, try and provide the information that the council's requested from last meeting. With that, I'm just gonna kind of stop and see what questions the council has. Talk about specific departments, whatever you want. Remember, this is about dialogue.
Yeah.
You wanna know why we made the term concept for years?
Oh, we had a few projects that, if you remember the last time they had, like, the year to start was like 0. We pushed that into what's called concept. The idea behind that goes back into some of the planning, it goes into planning ideas, which is, if you don't even have a concept, you're not planning for anything, which then means you could be shortfall to the city of needs. So we put that out there in concept. Now, that just means the project needs to be refined. The council consider when should that go from concept to start becoming a reality? Does the council think that should stay in concept? Does the council think they should put a year on it and say, no, we think we should be starting a new sports complex by 2030?
Hey, that's not a concept.
Oh, it's not. Oh,
No.
sorry. I missed what was it?
I mean, we just have all the new buildings.
Let's take the fire station. At what point does the city say that needs to go from concept into, let's set a target year and start identifying what the funding is for that?
So I got a question on that. So,
Please.
so where do you start, for lack of words, do you start saving for that? I mean, for 18 million, obviously, we couldn't fund it. So is there a way to do that, or how do you do that? I'm
Yeah.
There's a number of options that the city has. One, you start setting up a savings plan and say, okay, if this is gonna start 10 years from now and it's $18 million, I gotta set aside $1.8 million roughly per year. So you set up a savings plan and say, no, we're gonna go completely debt-free on this. The council can say, this may warrant saving more than that, and how are we gonna do that? How does that impact other things, and does that warrant a property tax increase to save for that? The other one is, man, this is gonna be a critical need at this point in time. We're gonna plan and do some sort of bonding that's gonna impact that, and what would that bonding look at? And we start identifying the funding sources.
And with bonding, does that typically allocate a percentage of future revenue? Is that what they're looking at? As part of the
You can do a
bank
couple
or the
different
bond
ways for
covenants?
bonding. So one type of bonding, which is less common here in the state of Utah, unless you're a school district, which is called general obligation bonding. What that does is, there's key terms to this, which is the full faith taxing power of the city, meaning you're using property tax, and you will raise property taxes to the amount needed to pay for that bond. And so there's a whole bunch of notices that go through. It's adopted by ordinance of the city, and you impose that property tax. That's what we call general obligation, or you'll hear the term GO bond out there. Those usually have a lower interest rate to them because it's secured by the property of the city. The other type of bonding is called revenue bonds. And this is one where you dedicate a portion of a revenue stream that is consistent, that people that are buying the bonds, whether that's a bank or you're putting it out there on the open market, that gives them a guarantee. Normally, the more solid the revenue source is, such as sales tax, the lower interest rate you're going to get because they feel more confident into it. And you can dedicate a portion of your sales tax or some other non-property tax, some revenue stream, to pay for that bond. We do this with water. We've done this with the secondary system where we dedicated the water revenues, a percentage of those, to repaying those bonds, subject to certain criteria. There usually isn't a revenue criteria the way that the water bonds have, but there would be a criteria. Normally, with the revenue bond, they won't let you bond 100% of your revenue stream. It's usually some lower percent because that gives them more guarantee that they're going to be repaid. And it would go out for a specific amount of time.
Is there, you mentioned a lot of times that's paid for through, say, let's just say sales tax revenue. Are we in a position where we have available sales tax revenue for revenue bond? Or is that sort of just a wishful thought?
No, we do. What we have to consider though is that'll take away the sales tax revenue stream. So let me back up for a second. Right now, the city's committed to has been committed to about 75% of the sales tax revenue being committed to being set aside and transferred to other funds.
Yeah.
So for ease sake, I'm just going to use 75% is committed to transfers to other funds. If you were to issue a sales tax bond, and if its percentage that you committed was 25%, that would draw you down to where you'd only have 50% of your sales tax that you could use for other projects. 25% would be going to fund the bond, and the other 25% is what we're already currently using for operations. That's
Yeah.
the simplest way to explain it. So whatever percentage your sales tax revenue that you commit, that would reduce how much you could have available for other projects.
And those other projects are capital items and the Utopia bond and some of those other things that we.
Or even for operational purposes.
In operation, okay. But that, where I'm going with this is there an opportunity for us to leverage a project, such as Main Street, and with that money, sort of work our way through, and it might be a 10-year revenue bond or something like that, to pay it back, but that would provide X number of dollars to leverage the project. That's kind of where I'm heading with that.
Yeah, and in the past, the city's used Class C road funds as a security source for a debt. You have the new RTIF funds that a place might consider, but those would be specifically for roads. So they're, depending on the project, we could look at the revenue stream and then talk to, about what that looks like with a bonding company, with
Just,
banking.
just, curious and asking.
The nice thing
Yeah.
about that kind of debt
It's no
issuance
options, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
is that we don't have to do a truth in taxation because it's a sales tax thing rather than a property tax.
Yeah.
It's not we're not trying to pull one over on people, but because the revenue stream is different, it's regulated different, and it's a little easier to leverage that.
There's similar notices that have to be given to the residents. There's just less meetings that it requires. So there's similar amounts of notice, it's just the public involvement is a little bit less.
Well, good. I kind of got off tangent there just a little bit, but I think that the purpose tonight is to sort of go through these capital items and make ourselves aware. And I think the council, you guys, it's your responsibility to sort of help us prioritize. So we've got all of these needs. Jeff, can you go through and let us bring up what we did here just a little while ago, where you went through the general, filtered on the general, and then just go through one so the council can kind of see how this thing works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walk through that and just give that example that you did a little while ago.
Yes. So what Curtis and I have tried to do is anticipate how many questions Bo can have about a spreadsheet.
Try to anticipate all of them first.
So
Thank you.
And so, what helped is I called Bobby and had a long discussion, used that twin telepathy to really hone in on what Bo likes to know. I wish your mom would have used just a different letter on one of you.
Chip and Dale.
My other brothers start with B too, so.
That's horrible. So for an example, like we can see, there's specific funding. This, that Curtis has identified really isolates the food pantry and Parks and Rec. And so this is, what we believe the estimated cost is. We come down here to the funds available, we can kind of see that the food pantry currently has, you know, they want to spend in the next few years, $163,000. They already have enough to cover that. Parks and Rec though, 14.5 million. They're a little low. They're a little over 10% there, so good on them. And so we just tried to put these two filters in, so as you see what the funding types are, it'll allow you to break down how much the department heads are estimating they would like to spend on their capital needs. And then down here with the funds available, what's there and then what.
And to be clear, these capital needs are all outside of operational budgets.
Yes.
These are capital
This
expenditures.
is only capital.
Yes, okay.
One thing I wanted to note on the concept plans.
Who's that?
As the council decides which of them to prioritize and maybe put a year towards, that is my cue as the city planner to start working on. Do you want me to just share my screen through Zoom?
Yes, please.
Or do you want to overcomplicate this a little bit more?
Biocast.
Well, tell him to come to the meetings. I can. Yes. I found it.
It's the little one on this side, on the blue, on the gray bar.
I mean, I know that. I just can't find where that window's disappeared. Oh, there it is.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. Share entire screen share. Okay. So through the powers of Zoom. Maybe. Anyway, well, at least Lyle can see it now.
There we go.
Moving from concept plans into their start date, that allows me and to start working with department heads to draft up what the concept looks like, start going through the design process if we need to bring in an architectural firm for help, which we probably will in most cases, how to get those RFPs together. So that normally is a 3 to 5 year process, depending on the complexity and depending also on how we choose to manage the project as a whole. And so even if you said, okay, we're going to work on the new fire station, for example, if you wanted to turn that from concept, the fastest, if we started tomorrow, we could probably get something executed and done is 2028. And so, but that gives me 3 years to work with professionals, to work with agencies for grant funding, to see what money's out there. But this is finally kind of letting the council guide what my daily efforts are and saying, okay, 2028, we're gonna do this one, we're moving it to concept. Then I can say, okay, let's start moving it along, and how does that kind of work out on the development process?
You'll just
First
get,
question really being,
you'll just get grants for all of it, right?
as much as I can. I mean, it's surprising working with Sean and Brittany over at Bragg, how much
Yeah.
is out there. But without telling me to like run after it, it's a difficult process. So, but knowing when those grants also need to be filed, most of the time grants want shovel-ready projects. So if that's 2028, we've got 2 years to work on funding and finding as many grants as we can to put towards that. And so that really becomes where I get involved in this, with my feet on the ground, is taking these larger projects and trying to start working towards having them come to fruition, because honestly, most of the concept ones are buildings, and that's not just gonna be like anybody got a lean-to outside type project. So it starts having greater discussion on land acquisition and, working with a department head or heads on where they feel is best suited for the growth of their department. And kind of working through all those questions, for 2 to 3 years.
So let's run through an example for you. Let's go to analysis for just a second.
I feel like you just love this tab.
I
I have all of these other tabs.
I
You
know.
haven't even looked at them.
I'm going to, I promise. So let's.
This is where it all
change-
comes together,
Let's
though.
change to general on the top one, which will change the other one to general. So just as you're looking at this, I'm just gonna pick the elephant in the room, which is parks, because it's got a huge amount to it. So everybody sees the park and recreation line. So these are projects that would be funded out of general revenues. You can see that the overall request over the next 3 years is basically $32 million.
With an unknown amount in concept, because there's a few things he would like to purchase.
Yeah. Our overall revenue, our overall available amount is $9.3 million, roughly speaking. This is where the council can go to the Parks and Recreation tab. So click on see, I'm going to a tab.
Oh my gosh.
Did we update the priority levels?
Yes.
Okay.
Those have all been updated. And you'll be able to go through and evaluate those by project year, by priority level, by the priority level, the priority order, roughly how many years to complete. You can work through all of those and see the
Did we
different notes.
change-
Have somebody from Parks come in and talk and
Did we change the meaning on those? Or
yeah,
these-
these have all been out back, and we received all the information back from.
Well, I think when we talked critical, though, was like life-threatening, right?
I thought not necessarily life-threatening.
Or did
but
we,
compliance?
Imminent, sort
Is
of.
there some sort of challenge to it, where somebody could get hurt? Could it cause some bad press in the newspaper for non-compliance or for something?
Safety issue.
We're gonna
So
filter,
I'm just trying to understand how pickleball courts would fall into that category of critical.
And this is where we said we'd
Yeah.
have we wanted to have somebody come in tonight and be able to talk to
Yeah.
why did they classify that in that order. With the last meeting, we talked about which part, it was one of the parks that had a busted slide to Schumann Park, and why there was a danger there that should be
Right.
Critical.
But this is where the department heads are gonna have a lot more information to be able to talk to the council. And you can ask them to talk about their specific sheet.
Yeah.
So when Zach is back in town, spring break is tough because he's
Yeah.
out, but when he's back in town, he'd love to address.
He did send something.
He did, but he doesn't talk about pickleball in particular, so.
I would say,
It's pickleball courts, but it's in connection with the sports complex, so.
So you go to the priority order, and then it sort of clarifies it a little bit in my mind, and you select for one. You know, go, just filter on one there, then it sort of.
So the way this works, you got the critical ones first, and then you got high, and then you got important. And for each one of those areas, then they're prioritized.
Yeah, okay.
And it's sorted there for the council's
And
use.
Parks and Rec, they're critical, it means something different to them than, say, the fire department. Might be something, you know, their needs or their idea of critical is something maybe different than
Well,
another department.
everything in the fire department kind of has a feel of wanting to be critical,
Critical.
but we can't ignore the needs of the parks department either.
No, I'm not, yeah.
No, I'm
exactly.
just saying,
Yeah.
it's not fair to compare the needs of.
That's what I'm trying to
for,
say.
You know, bulletproof vests for the PD, which is a real valid need, or SCBA equipment for.
But I think from a budgeting perspective, those would come before
Actually, if you look at the fire department.
park.
but that's what's gotten us in trouble with the park so far, is that's always been the motto of the city council.
Yeah.
Is that the fire department and the police department is always, because it is life critical.
Yeah.
And that's what's gotten our parks to the situation it is 10 years of, 10, 20 years of, well, it works still.
My mantra always, as ever, is funding reflects priorities. And the things that we fund the highest, and not necessarily first, but the highest are clearly the things that are the most important. And that just is the way it is.
But that's our job with the fire department and the police department, to realize that can you go 2 more years before you get there? Cause we need the slide fixed.
That's right. And that's why we work together as departments and
Is the 180 acres of land, is that to catch us up to the acre per citizen?
And Zach and me both have a wild imagination of how we could use 180 acres. It also depends greatly on where it's located.
the nice thing about that kind of purchase, though, is it gets us to where we want to be with our level of service. And then we can adjust our impact fees related to that instead of keeping our impact fees relatively low regarding park space, which is based on a level of service that we currently are at, which is
Minimal.
well, way below where we ought to be.
He's low on his price of property too. Quite low.
Yeah, we did some quick Zillow searching, and depending on where it is with the proximity to town,
You could build in Park Valley for that price, and that's as close as you're gonna get for 180 acres.
So now this is right here, Wes, this is what needs to happen is dialogue between the city council. And then you say, no, that number's not 7.2 million, that's gotta be this number. And we update this sheet based off of the council agreeing, and we put it in there and then reevaluate the priorities and come back through and decide how are we gonna meet the needs. And I don't envy any of the council members the task, that there is a lot of complexity to this. We're trying to break it down into the pieces. And we definitely have a lot of sympathy when you start talking about what's the fire department need, what does the parks need, what does the library need. And that's a tremendous balancing act. That's why we want to put this out here so that we can have those discussions, because in one year, one of these may have a higher priority, another year, right? And there's a looming deal out there. I mean, we looked and it was like 121 million over the next 10 years or whatever. And that's a scary number when we have a less than that amount. So it's putting a lot of the ball back in the council's court. But realistically, to a certain extent, that's where it belongs. And we will provide a lot of input and try and clarify things. And we can get department heads to come in and talk about these. We'll talk about them to the best of our knowledge.
The sports complex, what all is that looking at? Do we know? As far as what's, like, how did we come up with that number? Is that for the whole
Bulk.
thing?
Unintended.
Is there a way to break
That
that
was-
out? Because I think we built that modular for a reason, right? Like,
Yeah, and that's why-
conceptually,
That's what the RFP is gonna be able to, or the architect, hopefully this summer, is gonna be able to give us a better answer for.
yeah.
Zach and I, that's our gut number for the whole thing.
Because that's a huge number, and if it could be done in phases over different
yeah.
years, it becomes more realistic.
So this is another perfect example, Bo. If the council says, look, we want this broken out in phases, this isn't gonna happen this year. So we task that and say, okay, task this, break it, give direction and say, break this apart.
Yeah.
See if you can get some preliminary ideas that would break it up in phases. We can come back through and in a non-pressing time, October, November,
Yeah.
May,
next year.
not May.
But we can come back through in the fall and bring more information back and adjust the sheet and break that number down into 4, 5, 6 different units rather than one big number. So this is meant, I'm using this just as an example of
Great
what may
example.
happen.
Yeah.
But there's some of these that we may say, okay, we're not doing anything specific, but come back in September prepared to discuss this. Come back in October. And Cynthia is a fantastic resource. She will put that on and she will make sure there's information back to the council on the agenda and reminders.
Adding to your work.
And agreeable.
I personally would like to see the sports complex broke up because most likely, for example, like with hockey, I mean, is that necessarily something that the city wants to take on? Probably not. It's more of an entrepreneur that's going to go do that project. And with the dollar buyout lease on the property to incentivize that group to come in. You know, I know Ryan Smith's doing so that's just as an example where if we lump it in,
And that's
now
what-
we're really short. And so I'd love to see that complex broke out.
And that's why we got we're getting architects involved so that they can give us that price per modular or per mod or per amenity, so we can understand that probably through next year and going into next budget season. Of what.
Is
what we can
hockey
look at.
critical for Tremonton? No, it's not critical. Would there people like to see it? Yeah, but it's not critical for.
But I think
You
the
know,
sports fund.
I'm just being
complex
honest.
is.
Yeah,
But
I think
parts
the
of
whole-
it.
Yeah, well, I really, if we had the money, I'd say build it all. What I see, we're just way behind, and if we want all the tax or sales tax and everything, we gotta have people here spending it.
Yeah.
And and then I think it'll make money when we're done. It'll take a few years, but I think it'll generate its own revenue.
so right now we've just kind of put that in as a placemaker, and once we understand the phase cost, we'll put that in as, sports complex, outdoor soccer fields, this much, and we'll create 7, 8, 9, how many of our line items are needed for each amenity to go in.
That'd be great.
But right now we just, we don't know, because if it appeared tomorrow, it's the only one in the state like it. And I'm not bragging, there is not a complex throughout this state that has all of the things we've drawn up in it as one unit. So, and there obviously isn't anything that's been built recently that could even start kind of generally doing cost comparison. So,
I thought Zach said that Nephi or somebody just put one.
so Nephi has something called the Hive that is a multi-complex, but it goes through the school district down there. And for example, it doesn't have hockey to it. It also doesn't have 6 full basketball courts either. So, and then there's a new ice rink down in Enoch that we kind of use to price. And so Zach and I kind of broke down the recent structures and started adding them up together. But the hard part is with that, you're talking about the fact that one huge cost savings on this is the land's already here. And so with each of those projects that we went through and talked about, some part of their operation and overall costs had to deal with purchasing the land. Luckily, in our instance, that isn't it. But that's why the architect's gonna be crucial this summer as we get into this process to understand what the phasing can look like and constructability.
Right now, the answer is don't know. And once we find out what our budget
Don't know if
could and
ballpark 30.
yeah, should look like, you know, we can start filling in some of those question marks and we'll have a much better idea of how we should parse it out and parcel it out going forward.
So we really have two jobs. One, that we want to do the plan, whatever you call it. And the other is to spend what we need to this year or next year, whatever, right? For what capital that we have the money.
But if you go
We
the,
gotta rely on you to say, don't spend over X amount.
And
I
he
mean-
says that a lot to me, Blair. He says it so much.
Yeah.
if you go to the analysis page though, and I hate to be the, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but at the end of the day, the economics have to pencil,
That's absolutely right.
right? And so you can't suck blood out of a turnip.
But
So
there
you've
are,
gotta-
and this was the point of the conversation, I think, earlier. There are ways to get to where you want to be.
Yes.
If you want to get there sooner rather than later, you just have to kind of massage it and go issue some debt. And I know debt is a bad word in some settings. It's not necessarily bad here. Look at what we were able to do with the secondary water, which has saved us a ton of money on the culinary improvements. Parks is a little bit more of a it's a feel good kind of thing rather than a necessity kind of thing. And sorry, Zach, but you know it's true. If you don't have clean water to drink, you're really in trouble. So anyway.
Well, surviving.
Yeah, yeah. But the other thing is, land is expensive now, but it's only getting more expensive. So if we wanted to buy some property now, it might make more sense than to wait 5 or 10 years when we're even further behind the 8 ball and things have gone up double or more. So it's in some cases, it makes sense to issue debt to get the thing done now rather than waiting until things are even more expensive.
It's
other
hard
part-
to guess out 3 years of what a station's gonna cost or whatever.
It'd be 10% more.
Figure 10% a
It's
year,
gonna be
3% a year.
3% a year. So in 3 years, it's gonna be 10% more. Well, 9, but 10%.
But if you had the property, at least you're moving forward.
Exactly. And again, the property values in particular are just, they're growing faster than almost anything. So, yeah, I'm just gonna leave that there.
The other thing to Zach's credit, though, his is the department, though, that the city could look at bolstering revenues. If you got up to the point that you're able to host tournaments and bring people in, Parks and Rec is the only city department where you could try to plan it around helping grow revenues. And that's not off of usage fees, but just being able to market yourself as something that can host youth tournaments or adult tournaments, or hey, we've got the county fairgrounds and the city's gonna, pay a leasage fee, but then we're gonna do this with it. So that is the one thing to Parks and Rec benefit, I feel, is they do have the most potential to help with the city's revenue changing the revenue structure of the city. Also could bury some expenses.
Council, do you have any other questions?
Any questions out of Buffalo?
About what?
Any questions out of Buffalo?
So am I fully understanding right? If we were
Miles
to
and
do-
Niagara Falls.
If we were to do all of them, we're talking about we need to find 110 million to do everything
Yeah, if you do the
Over 10
general,
over 10 years.
you're looking, even if you back out the concept, I'll just back out the concept for a second. Not that I'm saying concept isn't important, but just the concept. You're talking about 60 million and we've got 9 million right now.
This
So-
is over the course of 10 years.
And that, yeah, it basically takes you out to 2037.
And where are we pacing on an annual basis right now on net income, quote unquote? Surplus.
The 25 budget, so the one that we're functioning in right now, the city council asked to transfer to capital projects funds. I just have this number.
6 something.
We transferred to capital projects funds, 2.4 minus roughly 5, so about 1.9 million. Not quite, about just used $2 million was going to capital projects funds.
Okay. Per year.
That's what we had for 25, yes.
So can we, I mean,
So
can
that's
we break it
20
in and
of
go to some departments and?
What's that?
we
Well,
go
that's
to-
kind of where I was, yeah.
Like have Sean go over theirs and why, and I mean,
Bring 'em up. We'll flip on their tab.
If we've got, yeah, if we've got the, sort of, you got a general idea of how this works, we could go in and have, and Sean and Kim and Jenny come up and talk about their areas.
stop or whatever.
So the station, as you know as well as I do, that's something that's not gonna happen overnight. And so there's kind of, between me and Andy was doing some of the station stuff, so my plan was like a 10-year plan on the station to start developing, looking for land, all that stuff in probably 5 years. Hopefully to be in a station in 10 years. Now, I was kind of being pretty, it is critical for us, but is it life and death? No, because they can survive in the station that we're in. It wasn't built to live in, but we're making do with it. So, you know, I feel that the station, in my opinion, isn't a critical thing, but it's critical to have in the back of your mind that it does need to be, we do need to start working on it. The training complex, I talked to Andy today about that, and he got a little knee-jerk reaction on that, and I don't think in conversation that is 100% our responsibility. If we build a training complex, the whole northern part of Box Elder County would use it, so why should we fund it? So in conversation with him today, we was gonna pull that off of critical and get with the other departments, the county, see if the county can get land, we can find something centrally located in the county, and then all the cities put in on it, and, you know, we'll make it for everybody, not us, so.
You had a chance to talk to the county about the property in Bear River City.
So rumor mill, they're gonna build their their county fire warden facility there. And it's 10 acres, and so there's plenty of room there, and that's just as centrally located in the northern part of Box Elder or central Box Elder that everybody in the county can use it. So that's with negotiations and talks with Kevin, the county fire marshal. Hopefully we can do something in the lines of that. And then my opinion would be just to help or put our portion in there to help fund it.
Are we looking equal? Do we feel like we need to pay more than any other department to get a training tower done?
Well, in the past, at certain other things, when we've done county projects, we were kind of a little bit more of a bigger brother than, say, Portage, because Portage has a $10,000 budget or so, I mean, they, you know. So it's kind of like percentage-wise, I guess you could say. I mean, we would probably more likely put in more, but Brigham should put in more than us. The county should probably put in more than us. I think it would all be based on, what you can probably afford, but that's how I would feel about that.
Like Jeff, and he brought up last week, and I did some work with ISO, talked to him. We would lose a little bit of ISO points, but we would have gained more by keeping that old engine than what we'd lose on the ISO points. And Logan put us on their list to use their tower, so we still get the credit for the points. So for right now, it's not.
It's not critical, and, yeah, you're right.
So
And like I say, I think we need to get more people on the bandwagon before we foot the whole bill.
We,
what would the council like to adjust that down to? We'll just adjust on the fly.
I think it's important, but it's not critical in my opinion.
Well, the new station is important.
Well, the new,
We're talking the training complex.
yeah, the training complex, I think really needs to go back on the docket. We gotta do some more looking, and we gotta do some more selling to the rest of the county too. Like I say, there's no reason for us to pay the whole thing.
Right.
Notes.
Was it 750 concept?
I
of-
think.
That was a
I think that's
guesstimate.
more than that to build a whole one,
Is
but,
it?
but if you put 200,000,
Supposedly Kevin has the transportators or something already or something, so I think it's like the concept of what we had before.
I know that if we build it, everybody'd use it.
Right,
And so we would just be paying for it all, and
right.
that's not.
And then you're fixing
We
it
had
and
one
everything
built.
else. Right.
But-
So that's why I say, if everybody's got skin in the
Yeah,
game,
so.
it's better that way, in my opinion.
I could see that number being 150, 200.
Yeah, I'd just adjust it.
What would the
Say
council
adjust
want to
it.
adjust it to?
I say we adjust it so we're still planning on it.
So it's-
Correct,
Our
Like-
portion,
it's-
our portion of it.
yeah.
200?
200,000.
200?
Or-
It's a
or-
number.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you figure Brigham puts in some, the county puts in some, you're gonna be up to there, I think.
Jeff, do you want to adjust that?
What kind of tower are we talking about? Are we talking about a concrete multi-story thing or just some containers or?
So and they all work great for us. We just put transportators and stacked them and turned them and made them look like a grain bin and high angled off from them. We did searches, we burned in them. I mean, they won't burn down, so they work on a budget.
It's a little hard to tell, but this was the one in Provo that
Yeah,
I thought would be a good model because you've got a station here in front and then there's room back here. You can tell it's just a tilt up concrete with
correct.
the most random arrangement of doors and entrances and exits and
There's a brand new one in St. George.
I'd be all over it, but is it,
We could find out what that costs from
Stove.
Chief Stoker and.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's like cream of the crop. I definitely wouldn't complain if they
I seem to remember
wanted to
there's
do
one
that.
BDO that's similar to that too, a concrete structure. Mm-hmm. Just off of 12th.
Yeah, the one on 12, I think they're tearing that out off Ogden.
Yeah.
They're building one somewhere.
Well, the ambulance, that's next
So,
year.
so we have, ambulance 33 is being replaced as we speak. It's supposed, so I talked to Alex, who's over that. They got the chassis and the box is supposedly being worked on, but they're hoping they have it by fair time. So this is where Sean thinks where we're high or critical. I feel the one that's coming is our most critical priority, which is already funded, other than,
Is it funded?
well, we have 270 of it is funded, but with the price increases from the time that they bid it has changed. I think we're at 285, I think is what we are right now.
We're really close.
Yeah,
It's in the,
that's already,
It's in the
yes.
25 budget.
so it's. you don't
Yeah,
have
so
to
we're
worry
good
about
there.
Is that ambulance 33 or 32?
33 is the one that's getting replaced right now.
This one says 32.
Yeah, so 33 is a 2010. That's our oldest one in the fleet. That's the one that's supposedly getting replaced.
And that's
It's-
why it's not on this.
That's probably why it's not on there. So 32 is a 2013, and that is the one that I feel like we need to bid or start another one to get on the build process, because we are almost 3 years from the time we signed on that ambulance that we're supposed to get this fall. We signed before we signed the engine,
So
and
do
we're
we-
still waiting for it.
Is there a deposit or some sort of a guarantee or deposit that we make right up front?
No, you don't have to pay for it till you get it. It's just like everything else.
That price.
Yeah.
No,
But no.
won't do it on
Nope.
the chassis.
No, they won't anymore, because there's, the tariffs and everything are so crazy. He actually, I think, because we were gonna guesstimate on the cost for 32 was about 350, so it's gonna go up about $50,000. But we're still got that 2 to 3 year build time. So if we turn around and get okay to do another one for the 25, 26 budget, we're still 24 to 36 months out of receiving it. So back in the day, we were somehow budgeting, before we went full-time, before we were budgeting, we were doing a 3-year rotation. And then we got busy enough, we actually went 2 years on a 2-year rotation. And then in 2020, we stopped for whatever reason.
So Curtis, I have a question. So do we typically budget some of the capital assets into the capital budget or into the operational budget? Like in that case, if an ambulance was in the operational budget, you get what I'm saying? Would that also be planned into the future? And therefore, 1.9 would go to 2.1 or whatever. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. So fire department has a little bit of uniqueness to it just because it's got its special, because it's in a special revenue fund.
Oh.
And so, it had no funds available for 26. But just listening to this, I'm getting a little bit better understanding, because like, I'm just gonna use ambulance 32 as an example, and Jeff, help me out here. So for ambulance 32, what I hear you saying is you'd like to order it in this year.
Yes.
So for the project year, it's actually not gonna be delivered until like 27 or 28.
Correct. 24 to 36 months out. From the time we sign that we want it, it'll
They
take,
still saying that?
yep,
Because the
So-
Will Coach guy has some in Salt Lake right now.
yeah. I'm just,
Right at bottom.
Oh, they have, and I talked to him.
Oh, they're for sale?
Yeah.
so
We didn't.
I'm just going by what the guys that have been talking to the people that are building ours right now, they're 24 to 36
that
months
far.
out.
So what we do is we change the project year of when the money had to be available. We would change this to 2027.
Yeah.
And then in the notes, we would put, order in fall of 25
Yes.
on the notes on that line. So your next line
Yep.
down.
So.
Not that
the-
line,
The
the next one.
funding
Oh,
for
it's that
this
line.
would come through the,
Okay. Oh, I see, you already put.
But it wouldn't be like years past where you're doing operational budget. It would be a capital allocation.
And this is one where, now that we know that that's not gonna happen until 27, we would look and say, okay, so in that fund, we need to set aside at least 370, and we would start planning
Yeah.
for capital set-asides within that fund.
into my phone when you
so Sean,
This one's a little bit unique because it could use general or this fund, and we'd be able to fund that. Now, if we look at the next one, which is 34, that's going in the same year. Are you saying you need both those ambulances in the same year?
Well, I'm saying, what I'm is we get the one that we're getting this fall, but in this fall, turn around and order the other one, because we were doing a 2-year, 3-year rotation, well, we've gone 5 years without. And so now we've got 4 ambulances that are stacked up on miles that now we're behind the 8 ball. So I was just hoping get this one this fall, but turn around and get that up because of our delay, we're still gonna be behind even with the 2 to 3
So would you
year.
just do that every time though? So once that other one shows up, you're ordering the other one
Order
behind
another
it.
one.
But he wants to replace 2.
Yeah, so one's, if you order one now, it'd be 27 when we pay, and then he wants to order another one
So
in
these-
27
this
and we pay in
funding will
29.
come
No, he
from-
wants to order it right now.
I know, and that's the one in 27.
No, he wants to order
Parcel,
2
part
right
of it,
now.
General fund, part of it.
Just one.
One.
He wants
So-
to,
So you want to order 32 right now,
32 this fall,
and then
34
34 you would order
when we
in
pay
2028.
30.
2020, yeah, and then just go on to a 3-year rotation, get at least a 3-year. So we're replacing them, end of life is 12 years.
Yeah, so what we want to do is adjust this schedule to reflect, so that the council has the information, and then you can decide if the rotation pattern is great at 2, or do you want to try and start, that's the council gets to, I mean, they get input, but the council gets to decide. And what we can add in here is this anticipates a 2-year rotation pattern, so that we have notes in here for you, for me, for them,
Right.
everybody, so we're
Right.
understanding each other.
Yeah. And I was figuring, I mean, you know, if you just had, I think was figuring like $115,000 a year, if it was just in the ambulance line item, every year about, that, by the time that 3-year rotation rolled around,
You'd have the money.
you'd have the money, right?
And part of this, my question was, how much of this is sort of out of the revenue that
Well, I mean, back in the day, it's what it was.
Paid wages. we-
It was paid, you know, the revenue from the ambulance paid for it, but now,
well, that's what I'm trying to say.
Curtis
Sort of-
could tell you that, right? What
Yeah.
kind of revenue?
Yeah, so like, this year, we have $270,000 plan to purchase it, and the budget's still balanced. And I just gotta check one other thing before I say that in specifics.
And would it be the same in future years?
They're gonna go up too in price.
So the what?
So is calls and
yeah. I figure the third ambulance will be about 380 for it.
No, because we're using some fund balance. I'm gonna have to go back through and analyze that one a little bit more. Because we got some fund balance that we're drawing down,
Got
which is
it.
why there's no fund balance available. But in any one year, we can start planning, going, this much needs to be set aside, and provide the council. Now that we know it's not a 26 item, we can look at formulating the 26 budget and make a plan so we can have the money available in 27. So that takes pressure off of this year's budget. And we can start working through, and in the fall, we can really formalize this and be ready for the council for next year.
Can I mean, are we looking at, from the general fund, subsidizing like half, or are you able to come up with what percentage can do?
We do, every year we do get an EMS grant, but it's minimal. I mean, I think it's $4,000 or $5,000 that.
But out of your
But what
revenue,
is the ambulance revenues? I don't think Sean
that's
knows
what
that
I'm
either.
trying to get at.
Yeah,
Well,
that, I could not tell you.
revenue that when
And
we
this
used
is
to have.
where, we're kind of in a hiccup mode right here, due to some recent events, and we're changing to the billing being done by a third party. And so my revenues are really behind because we
Yeah.
haven't got those all the way up to date. So I apologize to the council, we're just kind of in that stuck mode.
Right.
I'm expecting that over the course of this month, we should get more caught up and know about where our revenues should come in. So I'll be ready, I'm hoping to be ready by the end of April. For sure by the end of May, I'll have those numbers more solid.
I know Gold Cross, they are up to date on the billing now. They were way behind, but they are,
they've caught up.
Yeah,
they're
we just,
billing yesterday's stuff today. They're caught up.
we just gotta
Yeah,
get it
it's
into
just
our
gotta
system.
So
get
do you
back.
think there's enough to have in the revenue for an ambulance fund, enough to have 120,000 a year go into a fund?
we can definitely work towards that. I know there was some nuances in some of the billing that's updated based off of a new state law
Yeah.
as to
Some
what
things
we
we
bill
can't
for
bill.
supplies and stuff like that. So, we'll be working through that. Historically, we've been able to set aside roughly, this is one of those nuances. We transfer in to cover the fire department revenue, or fire department from the general fund. And then we analyze the ambulance for what it has excess. But historically, we've been able to set aside roughly $200,000 for capital purchases.
The-
They could be used for an ambulance, could be
From
used
the
for other
operational.
capital that they need. I mean, every once in a while, they drop like a $60,000 bill for these motorized cots or something they think
Yeah.
you need to have, or
Easy, it's good for your back.
Occasional safety.
Wish I'd have had that 30 years ago, but.
But it's, I mean, we can have some other fairly large expenses every once in a while pop in there. So it's not just ambulances. We want to make sure that we're planning for some other items as well if we can.
Well, that just kind of helps. Give us
Yeah.
kind of a,
It does, but historically, roughly $200,000 has been available.
that's what I was shooting for.
Okay. Will you scroll back over? Thank you, Jeff.
So really, everything else, in my opinion, you know, I really felt that the ambulances were our most important thing. There's one thing that didn't pop up on this one that I had on that other was our, the extractor in the other side of the bay. If we're gonna stay in that fire station for a while, we need to add that. The exhaust part in the, I call it the brush truck bay, just because living in there, that needs to not be there. Or, I mean, we need to add that to that area.
How much is that?
They came and looked at it, the same people that put it in, and let's be right at the very bottom, oh yeah, that one right there. That is, if we're gonna stay in that fire station, we really need to have, and I'm thinking it was about $40,000 or something like that. And the good thing about that stuff is, when we do build, it can be moved. So, I mean, you'd have to, the main structure of it would be, but you'd be able to take that wherever, and they can move it over, but that was one of the things that I thought was, or I felt that was, needed to be important if we're gonna stay in that station, because if you do start something up in that bay, it blows right into the office, and the chief's office is where the exhaust goes, so it's just because the building's been added on to so many times, but. The other stuff is just, as far as the vehicles go, it's all based on a rotation. I think they was doing a 20-year rotation on the engine, 30-year rotation on the ambulance, or on the ladder truck, so it's just all stuff that is projected out 10 years out.
And I know this is capital planning. Curtis, I was thinking about with the police chief and some of the needs with wages. Do we factor in wage adjustments every year inside of the operational budgets?
Yeah, the operational budgets have.
They do have that factored in?
They'll have a wage adjustment. We don't project that out like multiple years, but
Okay.
it's more of an analysis as each budget comes around. What's the projected increase?
Okay,
Typically 3%.
Not based on the CPI.
Just
okay.
Yeah.
been going a lot off of the what the price index what has been, and then every once in a while you get some wage factors that you have to address.
Do we have to address, right, like okay.
And that's the part where the council has to. That's something.
Just those things bleed into capital planning. That's why I'm asking
Yeah.
that question, so, yeah. Okay.
Better move on, Mayor. Go down to the next.
Oh.
How many do you want to get through?
You need anything else from me?
Yeah, I
Are you
think
good?
we've got some other departments
Yeah.
that need to, we need to give them some time, so let's, any other questions for Sean? All All right, thank you.
Been taken care of for a couple of years,
Thanks, Sean.
sort of.
Let's see, Kim, do you want to come up and tell us what you got?
Mine shouldn't be too long. I think I only put 3 things on there, but, of course, I know the library building itself isn't gonna happen for a long time, so I didn't put anything on critical. I do have some things that, moving our stuff from the basement and having a storage shed on site would save a lot of problems with my staff, because going up and down stairs with boxes and things is not very safe for them. And having that on site would be wonderful.
Kim, do you need power and heat and all that in it, or is it just for storage like what's downstairs? Power for lights.
I would say we might want some lighting in there, but yeah, I think if we could get something big enough just to store everything that's downstairs in it, that would be awesome. So, like I said, and I've got some older staff that they just can't go up and down stairs anymore, so it's not too practical. And with my knee surgery, I'm not doing that either, so.
Metal, wood, what are you looking at that way?
I don't know, when we were looking at the pricing, I just kind of went off the storage shed that we just bought for my house, and it's like 10 by 20. It cost us like 15,000, and we just went with I'm not sure, the Mennonite people in,
Sturdy built.
yeah, they were really, really good.
You got
And-
14 by 36s for like $17,000.
Yeah, it's awesome. And they have a lot of room. We would probably need some shelving and things put in, but,
We can do that in-house.
Well, yeah, either that or
Add it to the price of the shed. It comes already installed.
you just back it off of a trailer that way,
Build them.
put power to it, and
yeah.
Where would you put it, Kim?
Well, I was thinking, in the back by the stage, over on that side where there's no windows. I don't think we even have very much vegetation or anything over there, so,
North of the building? Yeah.
the meeting room
How much did you say
remodel.
the price was? Just, how much did you say the price was?
I bet you can get in
17,000?
one of them shed for 20 grand of nice.
yeah,
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear the amount, so.
yeah.
We could probably adjust that.
Really close there with maybe a pad underneath it or a wood floor or whatever she
Oh.
I think we'd
decides.
want to do a pad and try to weatherproof it well, because, I mean, library storage is very paper heavy, so
Yes.
just want to make sure it stays.
Oh, yeah, you-
Right.
I bought a 14 by 30 in Idaho, and it's built for put cars in and everything. It's pretty nice.
And on the building, is there a need before 2028? You know what I mean? Like how is the building and how?
Our building is old.
Yes.
You've been
It's,
over there?
Yes.
Yeah.
My wife goes all the time
I
too.
love it. It's fantastic, but
yeah, it'll be 100 years old in 2030, I believe.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, yeah, the oldest part of the building is not earthquake code. They keep telling me that if we have an earthquake, it's coming down. So, anyway, so, the newer part was built in the 70s, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that 2.1 kind of under the idea that we would tear that down and put a new building up in its place? Is that the idea?
I don't know.
We haven't made it that far into thinking.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just curious, where the number came from or what the general logic was.
that was the number. I think I would talk to Sam, because they, good gosh, Mill Creek just redid their library. I think it was Mill Creek. There's Salt Lake Town and one of the municipalities in the Salt Lake Valley that redid theirs, and he said it was about that. So it really just kind of comes down to with size. Like 2.1 might be a little bit high, but like I said, that's probably
basement
something.
cost. That's it. In looking at municipal buildings and how much things cost, and I know this is ridiculous, and I can't believe that they really are, but they really are from multiple sources. It's about $400 to $500 a square foot. which just makes me want to throw up. But that's where we're
All
at.
the rules and the.
Well, not just all the rules, it's the construction costs and labor and everything is just astronomical.
Well, and a lot of them now go for like the lead statuses and everything to help show
That we care.
that we care. That's a good way to put that. So a lot of new municipality buildings end up going after extra requirements, environmental and energy efficient and all this stuff. And those are great initiatives. There's nothing against it until you start looking at the final bit of having to include all of them. And,
Cork flooring and
wow.
Yeah.
I think them other two projects ought to be pretty
Yeah.
easy to fund this year, you know?
Yes.
The only thing I would say is think dearly about if you're gonna put it on a cement pad. Or someday, whenever that may happen, the new library, that you're
Yeah.
not just wiping that out.
Oh, yeah,
Just a thought.
definitely.
Yeah, that gets hauled off and sold or whatever.
Well, if you build it the way it is, he'll come get it and move it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you kinda gotta look at both ways on that.
All right, anything else, Kim?
I know he was talking about the meeting room. What we're wanting to do is put in a makerspace. And we did get a bid for the cabinets for that. We actually have all the technology stuff to put into it. We just don't have anywhere to put it. So what we're thinking is that, because we have a 3D printer, we have, other items that would be usable for people that are interested in maybe starting a business, that they could come in, they could try them out, they can, help with whatever they need to set up a business. And I know that was one of our goals, was to bring in more businesses. And so this is what our idea is that we have this space for them to try out our equipment. We have virtual reality sets. We have, there's just a lot of things. It will be for the teens as well. We just want to teach them all about technology and the things that they can do with their futures. It's just, and another thing that we wanted to do was get a smart board to do health visits, so that people could come in and do the telehealth. So a lot of things that we've got planned for, and it's not a big space. So we won't be able to have like meetings in there anymore anyways, because it's just too small. And we do testing, proctoring in there as well. So we will still continue to do that. It's just, we're trying to make use of every little inch that we have, so. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, that is it.
Okay,
Thank
we'll
you.
move- We'll move kind of along here, so we make sure everybody has a chance to. Jenny?
So we put the delivery car, right now we are using an extra car from the police department. So it would be nice if we could give that back to them and get another car for us as critical. And then also the vestibule expansion is marked critical as well.
I don't know what a vestibule is.
So what we would like to do is where the crayons are in the front of our building, we'd like to close that off so that every time the door opens, all the outside doesn't come into our offices and freeze us out.
2 doors to go through.
Yeah. Yeah, especially now we got the push button door openers, which are wonderful and amazing, and we're so excited to have them, but they hold the door open for quite a while. So it would be really nice to have double doors. I don't know that that's critical really, but
25,000 is what you kind of estimate on that.
so.
New flooring upstairs.
New carpet upstairs. We have a lot of runs and a lot of bubbles And that's a fall hazard for anyone, but especially for the people that are in my building.
Right.
So
Would you go back with carpet or would you put in?
upstairs, I think I'd stick with carpet. And the square tiles would be just fine. We just put the LVP in downstairs last year, but not in every room. We did the main room, both hallways and the entryway. So we've still got a couple rooms downstairs that have pretty old carpet in them. They aren't running yet or bubbled, so, but the upstairs is.
With the 12-passenger bus with lift, funding says maybe, is there a possible grant there?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
There would be grant funds for probably all of the vehicles to some extent.
Is that through Bragg?
Some of it would be, yes. Our last car that we got was, through COVID money, and I'm not even positive where it came from. I just got called and said we were getting a car, so.
I think Bragg has been good to work with.
Yes.
On those kind of things, so.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with our bus right now. They just asked us to start looking ahead and trying to figure out what we would need in the future, so.
Well, this will just give them an idea of when the funding's hitting.
There you go.
For the upcoming year. That's how she's going through.
We've talked about putting pickleball courts out and back. Our back parking lot has room to put 2 courts pretty easy. And it's a popular sport for this age group.
So you're just outdoor courts?
Outdoor courts. I mean, indoor courts would be amazing if we're, I'm not gonna turn them down. But outdoor is what.
Would you need to like put pavement down? Like,
Well, it's got pavement, but the pavement is sloped for drainage. We would probably have to level it out a little bit so they weren't chasing balls all day. Put some fencing around it. Yeah.
I don't know what cement is this year, but that's the biggest cost.
Right?
The coating or whatever they have to put on them, striping and,
What, you retire and you just lose track of the price of everything?
I haven't had to buy any. And city rate is better than. But my deal here is maybe it ought to not all be out of hers, but if she wants to build a couple of pickleball courts, could we fund maybe so that there's 4 court, double that, with not making her pay for it and
Yeah.
to suffice this tennis court being so busy and stuff, or, pickleball court,
But does she have room for
I
that?
was gonna say it would take away more parking
you think?
to do 4 courts instead of just 2. So 2 courts, we were at convention a couple weeks ago, so I talked to a guy. We pulled up our Google Earth. And 2 courts would fit the long ways across the very back of the parking lot.
Oh,
They're not quite as big as tennis courts, so it's a little bit more efficient use of the land.
and you could just put them, would they be side by side, or is that
They'd be end to end.
3 things, or what?
Yeah, not
3
like
back to
this,
the-
but back there on that last row of parking. It'd probably take away the last 2 rows of parking.
Yeah.
Because the pickleball courts would fit where that white drain is. They would fit from the drain to the edge of our property. Back there, yeah, back up there between the 2 trees, yeah. So,
Right up here.
So you can only get 2 pickleball courts in there, huh?
yeah. I mean, you could do 4, but it would take away, you would have to get rid of, I don't have
One of them
anything to
trees?
point with.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 2 trees. Well, no, coming down this way, you'd have to get rid of that oval. Look, she has a pointer.
Where to the north end?
Okay, so,
Tipped it away from them though, so come over
Yeah.
on.
oh, yeah, come over where people can see. You guys can't see.
Well, everybody out there wants to see it too, unless,
Okay, so what he told me, the pickleball court guy, was that I could fit 2 courts, one here and one here, from this line to this line,
Yeah.
there. But we could go to what, well, I don't know if we
With
can
that, we
fit it,
gotta
'cause
keep
that's
that
our
pond in
water,
there.
and that's where we flood all the time, so.
Brown area, in the brown area, yeah.
When we flood, every year, it comes out to here and over to here and around here.
So you could have ice skate if it got really cold.
That's right.
That year that it was really bad and it froze over, Marion drove on it with her truck and then it all of a sudden dropped, scared her to death. Anyway,
yeah, well, that's my thought. If we're gonna, I thought,
yeah, if you're gonna do it, you might as well do
Yeah.
extra, but the other thing is I wondered if we could do 2 here and 2 down this side as well, but this doesn't look as far as that is. So, it's
We
just
could-
a measure and see.
yeah. Yeah.
Good.
I don't know how
And
big a
there's lots of
pickleball,
parking.
how big is a pickleball court length? Anybody?
It's about 5 parking spaces.
They're 8 foot, so they're 40
I
feet,
don't know.
huh?
I don't know.
That'd be about right.
44
I
by
think-
20.
Yeah.
44 by 20.
But then you also need 5 feet on each side
Right.
of pad.
Bird size is 34 by
Don't
64.
run into the fence.
Yeah, 34 by 60.
Okay, I was just thinking.
Yeah. Possibility,
I mean, I know this parking lot's pretty empty, so I wonder if.
all the time.
I'm just wondering, like, do you want all of the pickleball courts or, or overflow parking?
You want more empty, go that way a little farther.
They move out of there, Norfolk will take it, no will
Yeah,
ever.
that one's empty.
It's true.
They won't. They don't use it for nobody. One person works in there.
Okay.
Okay, questions for
Yep.
Jenny?
I think we'll be good, Jenny.
So, okay, so you, kind of the 3 things, the delivery car, the vestibule, and potential
Flooring upstairs,
flooring upstairs.
yeah. Those are my 3 top picks. A small Bowery out back where we have 1 picnic table right now would be amazing with a couple more picnic tables. Not critical, crucial, or anything, just fun.
We're sort of past
So.
the,
The old thing we took off, still down to the plant. That
Oh.
Bowery,
I don't want that back, thank you.
Coles was banned.
No
but-
thanks. That lived its life.
Yes, it did.
So. Okay,
thank you.
all right, thank you.
Okay, Carrie, do you want to give us a little talk about, tell us where we're at with the food pantry?
This one has specific funding.
Okay, so mostly what I need this year is the concrete replaced on that south side. So the part right by that big garage door. it's
Everywhere that we
crumbly.
didn't replace on the south end last year, or
Yeah.
year before, huh?
And this one has funding already, right? Is
Yeah.
Curtis, am I understanding that right?
Yeah, everything is funded.
This one has funding available already, right?
Yes.
It's already
um,
allocated,
Yeah, so this,
if I remember that right.
this one has, food pantry has we're planning about $260,000 being available for 2026 for the food pantry. Any projects in the food pantry.
Capital projects, or is that what she needs to buy for food.
No, that's capital project.
That's capital allocated
Her,
already.
her operations are typically, she's amazing. She's got donations
Right.
and its community is so generous.
Very
And
generous.
it's- So over the course of time, it's been able to build up this amount in there about, we're projecting $268,000-ish would be available for the capital projects.
Let's go back to that.
With 163 in needs, right? Is that what I'm seeing?
So is the cement just?
Yeah, and that's
Do it.
all the way
You go
to
back to
35.
When I talked to Paul, we're gonna replace it.
Street view.
Just bad?
Yeah.
It all popped off and
Well,
It's very hard to,
I can see.
I have to be very careful with
probably
taking
take
food.
that curb out too, and just give you all slope into there.
Yeah, I just take it real easy so I don't tip the pallets over food when I get the Utah Food Bank trucks.
Is there a lift going into the building that is a problem?
No, up towards the building's not the problem. It's kind of, you can see where the division is right there.
Yeah.
That, it has sunk down a little bit, so there's quite the bump when I go over it, the forklift, back of
Like
the.
Wes said, you'd want, probably just have it so
All
it's
of
all.
it, yeah.
Yeah, right there.
Slope to
It's
the
just
road.
fine.
It's all
And,
cement there now, where that grass is, isn't it?
yeah, yep, that's all
Already.
cemented. That got put in what, last year?
Last year, year before, we
Yeah.
done that. We just didn't do her driveway.
And Paul's the one that said that that they could do it and for 8,000, he's the one that bidded it for me. So I just put down what he said. So even if it was more than that, we would be able to cover it. So, the forklift, I'm just guessing because I don't know how long we put very little usage on the things compared to other places. So like our Chevy truck right now, only has 3,900 miles on it, and it's a 2019. And we also got it with COVID money along with the trailer. So I put that we might need it out that far, but we really do a lot of frugal things and take care of stuff really good.
Fridge and the freezer, though, they could go upside down any day.
Yeah, and I did, like last year, it was $4,000 for a compressor. But when I also asked for Paul, because he had such a, he had like helped like with everything there. So he says that he didn't anticipate that we'd ever have to redo the outside part, just the inner part. And then he kind of gave me the idea of what we would need to replace everything. But mostly it's just been a part here and a part there that we've had to fix or put in there, so.
I don't want to put nothing in your mind, but do you ever see you needing an expansion? More room?
So our pantry is exceptional for room and space. And everybody that comes and inspects me and visits and donates, like the big main people from the Farm Bureau came from Salt Lake to come donate, and they said, he's like, I've been in a lot of pantries, and this is a really nice pantry. So right now, I feel like we're doing really well, so.
Is there anything else that would help you serve people better? I mean,
Not that I can think of. The truck is really nice to go get donations from, like, around town and stuff, and we've had to go to Ogden or Logan once in a while to go get donations. The trailer's really nice, because then we can go get 6 pallets of cereal from Post, or if
Water from Niagara.
water from Niagara. Yeah, it's just really nice. A lot of, like, it is amazing, community-wise, and businesses, they just love to give. I've got an upcoming thing with Post where they're gonna come help clean, and then they're gonna donate. It's kind of called last year it was called Ingredients for Good, and they're gonna donate quite a few thousands of pounds of food. And anytime I need cereal, I just call them, and they'll donate as much cereal as we can handle. So they're really good, and and there's many more
Liberty
businesses
and-
around here too. West Liberty,
Jeff,
Lineage, so.
total those up, will you? Just total them.
It's 163.
163,
100.
163.
and there's 263 in the fund?
168.
There's a
And
105,000 surplus.
And this year alone, we're already up to, for donations, we put down around 52,000 and we're at 69,000 for donations this year, so far.
Apologize. Her department's pulling it right now.
How much have we brought in donations?
This year,
Do you do that
60.
in pounds of food, or do you do that in?
This is only money. And so 69,960,000. And then, we have a $20,000 grant that I've used 15,000 of it so far. That grant is, I usually put down, it helps pay for utilities, and it helps pay for food that I can use. And I'm about ready to apply for it again every year.
In terms of pounds of food, then,
100,000.
is that another
Can it be
measurement you
reallocated?
use? How do you measure the donations, the actual donations?
So the food, I just measure like how many pounds we get per month, and it just varies. So a lot of,
How much last year, or how much this year are we, where are we at?
I haven't added up the food poundage yet, but, for March, because we had the food drive, we had an extra 20,000 pounds of food, from the donation from that. And we have a food drive coming up with the stamping out food. And we have, so this, I haven't added up everything yet. This month the months vary depending upon what we have going on. But this month, we'll probably have around 40,000 pounds of food donated. So anytime there's a semi that has a rejected load or anything that we can meet in there and get, we take what we can, so. And then Utah Food Bank gives us probably 20,000 pounds of food, around 16 to 20,000 pounds of food, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
Council, do you have anything, any questions?
That's good work.
And then we serve about probably 180 families a month, and we serve, just for your idea, then adds up to be about 600 people in those families, so. Just
But that has increased, Carrie, right, from 120 to 180 in a
Probably
year's time, 18 months?
Probably a year's time, but every month it just goes up a little bit more every month, so. Okay.
Let's see,
Nobody left but the guy with the gun.
yeah,
Good, you ready?
yeah, we're ready.
Are you ready?
I'm ready, Chief. Cool. So, I'll pull up our list. It's a little different than what I got in front of me, let's see. Okay, perfect. So we actually broke it up a little bit. I'm over the animal shelter as well. I'll start with that since it's the smallest, and I kind of want to give the council some insight. The mayor's a little familiar. I actually reached out to the sheriff and I haven't heard back yet. So we're at a point where we've grown into our animal shelter. We've generally taken animals from outside of our city to help the sheriff's office from time to time. Brigham has done that as well. Brigham's plan is to cut off the county. They had a contract before that's set to expire, and then the county's going to look for a resource. So what we've talked about within the last year or so is coming together with the county to build a new shelter that can meet everybody's needs with the growth of our cities. I threw that number in there. It's up in the air. I don't think the county has a plan unless they've reached out to the mayor. I haven't heard anything else. So at some point, they're going to hit that date where they're cut off and they won't have a place to take animals. I know they're going to ask us. As it stands, we couldn't accept what they need. So that's something we should probably communicate with them on and see what the plan is. And I would love to see us come together to take that problem on as our community grows. But in the interim, I think as a city, we should plan for that as well, because we are kind of utilizing that resource to the maximum. And if we're going to continue to offer that, I think we have to have a plan for it. I'm no expert. I've went to the meetings. I'd say Julie's great. That's what I added in there as well as additional staff in talking to her. I think it's to a point where it would benefit from having a department head and another part-time employee to help manage that resource if we do want to offer that to our community in the future. It's its own living, breathing machine at this point. She's done a great job. She brings in a ton of donations. It's been great as far as like PR within our community. And I think it's a great thing we offer, just like the food pantry. I think it's awesome that we do that as well. So that kind of touches base, but in talking with her and considering the need in the future with all the growth and developments, I think there is and I could pull you guys the calculations, but basically, based on a household, I want to say it's like 1.5 animals per household. So as we grow, that's more pet population. There's a whole estimate. And Brigham's a great resource for those numbers as well. But they've outgrown theirs. They're looking to build a new shelter, top of the line. I don't know that that's something we need to do. We just at least need to expand what we have to meet that future
Have
demand.
room down there?
We don't really. One option, which we can look at, is expanding to the other side, but I understand Public Works uses that for storage. But I think in the future, we do need something to accommodate the extra animals. So I'm open to ideas, but I think it would benefit to have somebody that's over that, that's really managing, keeping track. Another cool thing about this particularly is there is an organization, Best Friends, and they would actually help us build that facility. They would fund a ton. We just have to fall into that no-kill status, which we currently are. They've given us a ton of money, a ton of resources, paid vet bills, provided food, the list goes on and on and on. And if we did want to take advantage of that and meet their terms, they would be open to help build a facility and fund that. We just need to work with the land. But that's something we could pursue if we were interested, but I'll leave that to the council as well. They've done it in other cities. It's a huge organization, tons of money going to that. It's very known and profitable as far as a nonprofit organization goes. So I think it'd be great. So anyway, that's something to think about, but I think we do need to plan for that facility. I'll let you know what the sheriff says if the county has a plan. Last I heard, they were like looking at surrounding outside of our county resources to try to get some contract going with, like, I want to say it was Weber, to see if they could pay them X amount. That's another way the shelter could generate revenue, is if we take in other cities' animals and charge them for that. So it could, in theory, sponsor itself to some degree, but we run into problems when we're adding staff and depending on the size of what we need. As far as the police department goes, I was in line with Bo on that. Originally, I did have the wage adjustment as our number one because it is so impactful to the overall budget, but it doesn't meet the definition of this. So our number one on here is our police vehicles. Every year we come here and we ask for money to rotate our fleet. As it stands, we're doing about 4 per year on rotations. We try to run the vehicles for a period of 5 years. That's helped with resale. We'd just like to build something where they're continuing on rotation. It's a little higher at 400 because when we met with Curtis, there was a deficit there for whatever reason. Instead of the 400, there was 3. And yeah.
Is that part of operational too, like the ambulances, or?
The
Okay,
police department's completely in the general fund.
okay,
Yeah. So
That's part of the $9
Yeah.
million that's available.
yep, okay.
yeah, so it's pretty important. You know, cops have to have vehicles. We could push that out further. What we found, especially with a lot of these cars, we've had a lot of bad luck. If we're in that warranty period, it doesn't cost us anything to fix it. Once we extend past that warranty, we pay for that. And we've taken some pretty good hits on repairs. And it seems like it's constant, to be honest. So part of that is what we've tried to do, is have an extra vehicle just to adjust, because we're always having one go out. I mean, cops live and breathe in those vehicles 24/365, so they take some wear and tear, and we absolutely have to have them. So as far as critical stuff, we'll touch on that. We talked about the animal shelter. That could be critical, but there's a lot of unknowns with it with the county. I know originally we had talked about working together on that. Another area on here on my list is the steel building, outbuilding, critical to high. The reason that's critical to high, I'm currently on a waiting list through the Department of Justice to get a free armored vehicle. It could go one of two ways. We'd either get a Humvee or we'd get an MRAP with the preferred MRAP. That's basically a SWAT vehicle. That's worth about $1 million if we could take advantage of it. If not, then they would move on. But one of the requirements is you have to have a secure building that we can park it in, lock it up, and meet minimum maintenance care, things like that. That's not just a resource for us. We can help our brothers and sisters and surrounding agencies around if they have a critical incident. Sounds like it wouldn't be a need, but I guess I'd remind the council of the double shooting we had. When I wish we had that equipment where we could access it, because that was scary. I mean, we sent our guys up to a place where a guy just shot 2 people. We didn't have the armor we needed, the shields we needed. The council helped us provide that in the interim as far as like personal protection equipment, but it would be nice. These things are a game changer. Also, if there is a shooting, there's an ability to extract people using those vehicles as well, get them out of there and get them to safety. So we've had a huge rise in our SWAT operations over the last couple of years. We've gotten better as a team as well. So I'm just planning for the future, and if we could take advantage of that, I'd say we do so. But the range on that, as far as time frame, is variable. I can't guarantee we'll get it this year. I did talk to the guy over the program. Tooele just got one. They were only on the waiting list for about a year. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. We've been on the waiting list for a bit longer than that, but they've changed with the new political environment. And one thing that the president's committed to is adding back into that. It kind of went on pause for a while, and we had put in originally before that, but now it's a big thing they're doing is military surplus vehicles. So super cool.
Where would that go?
That's for the building. So as far as the building, we do have an extra space next to the PD. It's just kind of the rocky area over there behind those trash cans. That's where I would assume we'd put it.
Enough room between there and the tennis court?
Yeah, I would think so. We might have to move some things around, but we can make it work. What else we got on here? Any questions about anything on the list? We tried to break this up by time frame. Tasers is a number 2 on the importance level for us. We're kind of behind. We're using old equipment, and we've been repurchasing old equipment. I'd like to get our guys outfitted with the best. Just gives us another option to avoid any lethal situation. And the technology's gotten a lot better, so they're a lot more effective. It's like anything else. The longer we wait to buy that equipment, the more expensive it gets. But we're definitely due to cycle those. And I love Bill's idea of building something where after the lifespan, it just comes up on rotation, and that way we're always on top of it. What else? We got the armored vehicle. I put it as a number 3. The hope is to get that sponsored from an outside agency. If not, we probably should look at other options and maybe even team up with the county, because we're a joint SWAT team, to buy a vehicle just for our operations. But I'm feeling pretty good about the funding, the grant. We had vehicle cameras in here. The council and the recommendation of our legal counsel wanted those. It's not required by law, so I don't really feel it's as critical, but it does protect us from liability. So it's a balancing act. Our guys do carry body cams. It was originally on this list. We found a way to pay for that within our budget, but it might be something we want to look at as a city. I would recommend having them, but to me, it's more of a luxury. Some larger agencies don't have those, but the ones that do, there's a couple stories I could tell you where it's bailed them out of pretty good lawsuits. So it's really a balance game, especially in law enforcement. It's all about, do we want to save money now and maybe spend more later if it's litigated, or do you want to get ahead of it now to protect ourselves? So that's something to bring to your attention. Ammo, handgun, rifle, that's just a reoccurring, ongoing expense. Our guys need to train and stay on top of their skill set. That also protects us from liability in the form of training.
Is that operation or is that capital? The gun, the handguns.
I wasn't sure if that meant the ammo for the handgun and rifle, or if that was actually a handgun and a rifle. If it's just the ammo that you're gonna be shooting in it, that would be an operational expense.
Yeah, there is a lifespan that they recommend for certain ammunition, especially with us carrying it to protect us from that liability. It's good to buy it in
They'll go
bulk.
help you shoot.
I know, I hear you. You're not the first. You're not the first to say that. I do like the idea of cycling it. We have been going through and auditing some of our ammo. There is a good surplus on certain calibers that we don't even use anymore that we're gonna take on and, but the point is to have stuff within the dates to protect us. God forbid we ever have an officer involved shooting, that is something they're gonna look at, and that's another place of litigation. Our job is to try to not get sued as much as possible. It's challenging nowadays. Aside from that, vehicle radios, absolutely critical. Gotta have that to communicate. SWAT headsets, I think will be good. This is pretty far down the list, and some of these dates are a little down the list. It's just during the lifespan. We were able to purchase that. We do have good equipment now, but once it runs its course from wear and tear, we should be prepared for that.
Chief, how much is a vehicle radio and a handheld, if you break them down to?
Well, I mean, I could tell you what it was this go, and we're way over budget, but what do you?
The in-car radio, if I remember it, was 5,600 is what Harris just quoted me, and then the handheld, I don't remember the exact number on that, but I'd say a couple grand probably, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it's around 5. We got a screaming deal on those Harris radios. We bought extra to prepare for that, but as they get cycled, I don't know if we'll get that opportunity again. They were like 50% off, so everybody was switching.
We have some extra handhelds, so the in-car radios are all installed. So when that purchase was made, from my understanding, it was before we got the new allocations of officers. And so everyone's got one, but we don't have any surplus in-car radios.
But they can be taken out in 5 years for the new truck, right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't need, I mean, I'm not saying it won't, but
Correct.
possibly them radios can be passed on to the next truck.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we would try to do. There is a cost associated with uninstall and reinstall,
Right.
and they charge a premium these days, but yeah, we could totally do that. One last area I'll mention, I think you heard it from all the department heads today, is the building. We are growing quickly. I understand the struggles of the city. If we're gonna be there, we do need to plan for that, and that could look like additions, restructuring, being as efficient as we can with the space we have. Ultimately, though, I'd say we're already behind. We got multiple people sharing offices, and it's pretty cramped in there. There's also some security things I won't go on a public venue and talk to you about, but things we could do a lot better. But I think it is important to have a plan to get an actual public safety building to meet those needs. But in the interim, there are ways we can do it, but it is gonna cost money. So,
You're fully staffed now, right, Chief?
we are, yeah, knock on wood, because that makes me nervous. But yeah, we've been doing great. I credit a lot of that to the council. Your support has helped tremendously. When I came, I'd say we were in a place of crisis, and now I would say we're almost flourishing. I'd like to just keep that momentum going. And one thing we touched on briefly is we do build in that COLA. Pretty much every department does have the COLA, but they also build in a merit. And I know we did that with that new system, and that's why we're always trying to adjust. But I do like the idea of planning for that for our department, because the supply and demand on police officers is crazy right now. And we're all competing for the same small pool of officers. We actually had our meeting with all the sheriffs and chiefs today, and that's one thing the sheriff talked about is there's still turnover, and he's looking to hire, and I'm like, oh man. So hopefully you can find somebody outside of our department, but you never really know. But yeah, we're doing great in that regard.
Has there been conversation around combination of buildings? There's multiple requests for that. Is that something that in the admin, like, okay.
But yes.
Yes. I would say too, we have 2 parks coming online that are storm drain basins for, related to developments. And near them is space that I think the city should look at for the animal shelter so that they could use the storm drain basin as a dog park or as an animal park so that we don't have to try and overlap so much extra recreational room for the animal shelter. We could just look at trying to get the building and what it needs operationally, knowing that it can use the park as the open space.
And the idea is that it's possible that there would be funding for the shelter itself. We just need to get the property.
Yeah, and if you guys want me to go down that rabbit hole, I can see what that entails. They will have the requirement that we stay no kill, which presents challenging situations, but that's kind of the way it goes. I do believe there's a stipulation if you do have a very dangerous animal, then you can go down that route, but we would, it's not completely unconditional. It's like, hey, we really want you to go away from this. We'll provide these resources, but I'm happy to check into that and see what it entails and provide you with that information. Even if they were to sponsor a portion, it would be tremendous help to the future of the city. When I hear you guys talk about all these developments, and it's like, man, there's a lot coming in. So I'd rather be ahead of it than be, no offense to the county, but they're going to be very reactive. And then you're in a position where you have to spend a lot more money to provide that service. It's almost like a crisis at that point. So planning pays off.
Certainly. One question back to Jeff here. Kind of made me think a little bit. There's been a lot of requests from the citizens about the possibility of a dog park.
Yeah.
Could that be something that could be done in conjunction with the animal?
Yeah, I
shelter?
mean,
Dog?
we just look at, I think storm drain basins make really good dog parks because they are able
Yeah.
to flush themselves out. And so I think there's 2 solid, sorry.
Don't say solid flush, it doesn't go together.
The public works guy, I think goes perfectly together. I think it would be an optimal use of one of those parks, one of the 2 parks we have coming online to turn one of the storm drain basins into a dog park, a fenced dog park.
Any other questions for the chief?
Good work.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Mayor?
Yeah.
We got an email from Zach earlier, and if it's okay with you, I'd like to just go ahead and read this really quick. This has got his budget priorities outlined. I'd like to ask that we hold questions until Zach can be back and address those in person specifically. But if you do have questions for me, we'll try to fill in as much as we can. He said his first priority is land. We kind of already talked about that. Tremont currently has levels of service of 2.4 acres of park space per 1,000 residents. The low quartile for cities under 20,000 residents is 6 acres per 1,000 residents. Our current parks are small in size with no room to grow. It is recommended that Tremont and City look at purchasing and investing in land earmarked for future park space now, so that as the city continues to grow, we are able to keep up with demand on parks and focus on raising our levels of service to a minimum of 5.5 acres per 1,000 residents. And just as a comment on that, again, we talked about the value and the expense of land is only getting more. And so we probably want to think about this sooner than later. And maybe we have a thought that as the city grows, the developers themselves will donate land for park space. But that land donation is related to the development that takes place, the new development that takes place, and it doesn't count towards this deficit that we're already in. So we need to just keep that in the back of our mind. Number 2, the sports complex. I think we already talked about that, so maybe we can skip that. Stokes Park, this is the park that is over by, on the west side of town. He says there are no parks or playgrounds on the west side of I-15, and the growth has exploded in the last 5 years, leaving residents on the west side of town without any recreational opportunities within an acceptable walking distance. The park will also serve as a stormwater detention basin for the area, which saw flooding problems in the winter of 23-24. It will also expand our open green space playing area for team sports and a possible dog park, like Jeff points out. depending on results of the 2025 needs assessment results. Number 4, an awning/cover for equipment behind the park's shop, as we have been handed down needed equipment from Public Works. We have run out of storage room and will have to house some equipment outside. This structure will protect equipment from outside elements. Number 5 is a new field painter. As we have grown and maxed out our current playing fields, a GPS-driven painter will save hundreds of man-hours per year on field setup. At Stevens Park alone, this year we have set up 11 soccer fields. This will give us the option to easily set up new fields and sizes as we work with other sports and field sizes per season. Number 6 is updated security system at Schuman Park and Stevens Park. The security, we met with these folks, Jeff and Lindsay and I. Were you there? We walked around the different parks and looked at the security needs. They are significant. We have some ideas for this building as well as far as security needs go. And we're working with a company to kind of get an estimate of what that might look like as far as expenses. But you can see that they're needed in those parks as well. And finally, an update on the slides at the playground at Schuman Park. They are on order and will be replaced as soon as they arrive. It's 18 years old, and it's a little like a used car where you're putting a lot more money in maintenance, and it's starting to become a bigger factor. The playground will need to be replaced within 7 years. It is critical to save money for this playground, Stevens Park playground, and finishing North Park and Meadow Park playgrounds now. So that was from Zach. Thank you, Zach. And then Jeff, did you want to walk through the administration stuff?
Are we gonna be late for meeting?
We're
Oh, I
taking a
can
break.
get this
I'm
done
taking
in
a
4
break,
minutes.
let's take a
whenever
break.
you decide, but.
We'll,
We can come back to that.
we can come back to that.
Okay.
I didn't realize we were that.
Hey, I needed 1 minute per, 1 minute per item. You ready?
Yeah.
Cynthia.
1 minute per item. No, you said 1 minute.
Set, go. Cynthia wanted an interactive cemetery map to help people find their relatives. Super easy. She said there's a funding that'll cover at least half of it. The other thing is an administrative vehicle. A lot of us end up taking day trips to Brigham or something, and we just thought it'd be helpful and a lot cheaper, especially with the raise in mileage reimbursement to have an admin vehicle. Last is a new building. This one's as old as I said 3 minutes. It's not even changed. Last is a new building, but to answer Bo's question, yes, I think we could consolidate the library, this, and the police department into one building.
Probably not fire, but
Not fire. I think fire ends up
library.
with how much this.
Fire cop, and
I think with how much fire and how much sprawl this city's
Delete all
having,
your stuff though, copy all your stuff.
with all the sprawl and with the city growth, I think it's gonna get to a point we'll want 2 separate stations for response times instead of one centralized.
Hey.
Is that close
That was
enough?
the quickest report I think you've ever done.
You got it in there.
All right.
Hey, thanks for all your
Start our policy session. We'd like to welcome everybody out here today and this evening, I mean. And we'll go right into it. I've asked our financial director, Curtis Roberts, to give us, let's see, I'm going to start with Bo. Oh, Curtis was going to offer the prayer, and then we're going to have Blair lead us in the pledge. We'll go to that point.
Our Father in heaven, we approach thee this evening in prayer as we working as a city, especially with the city council and the mayor. Father, we humbly pray that thy spirit, the spirit of peace, will be here as we discuss several items. As the city council councils together and discusses these items, we pray that their minds might be illuminated with wisdom, that they'll be able to listen and more importantly, understand the concepts as they're being discussed and be able to counsel in wisdom for the best practices of the city. We pray humbly for thy guidance and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Everybody knows the drill. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Curtis and Blair. All right, I think I'm going to dispense with the introduction of the council. I think everybody here knows everybody. So we'll go on to declaration of conflict of interest. Council, are there any issues that we need to declare tonight?
No.
Hearing none, let's move on to the approval of the agenda. Council?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda, but we need to get back to our justice court thing somewhere
Thank
along
you
the
for
way.
bringing that up. Yeah, we'll do that we're going to cover the part about the justice court in our comments at the end.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing
I
that up.
second the motion.
Okay, motion by Wes and seconded by Blair. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes from March 18th, 2025, our last council meeting.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from March 18th.
Okay, motion by
I'll second.
Blair, seconded by Bo. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh, there's Lyle.
There we
Hey.
go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I failed to mention that Lyle is enjoying some time.
And Brett's on too?
Brett's on as well.
Yeah, I'm on.
Everybody on. Thank you. Brett and Lyle offsite. Public comments, this is your opportunity to address the city council with your concerns or ideas. And again, we're asking you to keep your comments to under 3 minutes, 3 minutes or less. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to new council business. Item A, discussion and possible action of adopting resolution number 25-11, establishing a separate accounting fund for road special revenue fund. Is this going to be you, Curtis? Can you take that?
So, throughout the years, we've always had Class C road money. It's been easy to account for that within the general fund. We adopted an impact fee a few years back. We put a lot of that fund into Fund 42, a lot of that money into Fund 42, which is the Transportation Capacity Fund. RTIF came along, which added another revenue stream. These are restricted funds. They have a purpose. And what we're finding is sometimes it's more difficult to convey to the council with all the complexities inherent to a city, trying to convey the complexities of these restricted funding sources. It's becoming a little bit more challenging. So what we're recommending is we set up a separate special revenue fund. This is not a business type fund. This is a special revenue, so it's a governmental fund. but it would be designed specifically to account for the Class C road money. It'd account for the RTIF money. We can put the impact fee money in there as well and have basically a road special revenue fund that would then keep track of how much we're spending for road maintenance, so we can report that accurately. There's some reports that we have to make sure we're compliant with as when it comes to our financial statement audit, to show that we've only used that money for road projects. So it helps us communicate better internally and also externally how much is being spent for roads. That's why we're recommending this fund at this
If we
time.
adopted a TUF, would that go in there as well?
We could, if there was other funding sources that were dedicated to roads, we could put that into that special revenue fund
Are
as
there
well.
any disadvantages to it? As
The
your opinion?
disadvantages, you're taking part of the public works out of the general fund, and putting it there inside of this special revenue fund. So there could be a little bit of, identifying specific road projects where if there was, maybe some sort of, no, that one's not, no, all I see is upsides. I was really trying to argue against myself, but there are so many upsides to this. It makes it a lot easier. It's a lot clearer. From our standpoint, it makes it a lot clearer to present to the citizens of how much money is being spent on the roads. It doesn't get mixed into the general fund, and it really makes the accounting for the restricted funds a lot easier and us easier to explain to the council why this money has to be spent on roads.
Any other questions for Curtis? All right, council, what do you think?
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 25-11 for to make it.
I'll second it.
Motion by Ware and seconded by Wes. Let's start with you, Wes, and then, so Wes and then Brett after that, so.
Okay, Wes, yes.
Brett, yes. Lyle, yes.
Larry, yes.
Bo, yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Just item number, thank you. Item number B, discussion and possible action on adopting ordinance number 25-05, amending the Tremont City Land Use Code, Chapter 1.24, Home Occupation Permit. So I guess that's you, Jeff.
So as Greg has started asking me to help with the review of business licenses, this chapter was brought to my attention, and reading through it, I felt like it could be a little bit more clear. And the other part of it is I wanted to permit any of the minor home occupations. So there's a table in 1.24.035 that lists what are our minor home occupations. The intent of this is that for those that might be trying to run a business from home, Greg and Bill and I agreed that these uses could really, as long as they're staying within the confines of their house, wouldn't have an extremely commercial impact on the neighborhood. My mother-in-law, for example, has done bookkeeping and tax prep out of her house for a long time. And that was kind of the inspiration, is understanding what people might be doing seasonal work or something from home that doesn't need to have such a scrutiny through the DRC. And that was how this list was pretty much in the code, and we just made the changes in red. The major home occupations, though, we will be sending through DRC to make sure that they meet building, fire, and state code regulations, especially as we start seeing a growth of childcare and preschools here, and you can kind of have a more intense traffic flow. That was what we were a little bit concerned about, was making sure that anyone that's using their house is the headquarters for their businesses. If we feel like it's too commercial of an application, has to go through the DRC for approval. So that's what these changes really are, is kind of loosening the regulations on minor, and then furthering outline how the approval processes for major home occupations.
I have a question on the planning commission switch. Is that just a new name for planning commission or
No, so the
that's somebody else?
planning commission is the volunteer committee that
Yeah.
that works, and the majority of them aren't going to know the code like our city engineer and our public work. Like, they're just not trained in that regard. And so what I wanted it to do was to go through the DRC, or the Development Review Committee, and that is Bill and me and the city engineer, our Parks and Rec director, Zach, and Carl, and those are really the five people that know the state, know development code, know the state code a little bit better, and I thought that just would be a more thorough review process than planning commission. So,
All right.
With the trailers, there's a trailer that can be parked or stored, right?
yeah, so this has been the largest talking point, and I apologize for skipping over it, but Greg and I tried to look at this one and pick at it from a few different perspectives, and really we just came down to what the sentence is that's proposed here, that says any vehicles or trailers used for home occupation just have to be stored on the premises without blocking the public right of way. And that way we can at least have something to say, if it is a problem, we can point to this code and say you have to keep it on your property. The hard part is we have such a variety in property sizes that we couldn't, if we wrote it directed towards this group, then it didn't really fit well, and we couldn't find a great way to, in words, address all of the problems.
Yeah. So if I had a food truck,
Yeah.
is that,
We'd prefer it if you would park it on your, on your property somewhere. The one caveat that Greg and I did is, if you're lawfully parked along the side of the road, that's why we put, parked without obstructing the public right of way. We do have codes about, line of sight triangles and things that we can look at. So the real asterisk to that sentence is if they are lawfully parked in the public right of way, and then there's not much we can do about it. But we can always go and at least have a discussion and point to this code that says, hey, because of this, we need you to be on. If it is a dangerous situation, then, I mean, we have something to point back to.
Okay, any other questions for Jeff? I'll entertain a motion then.
I can find it. Is this the 2505? No.
2505.
I motion that we adopt ordinance 2505, amending the Tree Mountain City Land Use Code, Chapter 1.24, home occupation permit.
And I'll second it.
Motion by Bo and seconded by Wes. Brett, you're up.
Brett, yes. Lyle Vance, yes.
Larry, yes.
Oh, yes.
Wes, yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thanks, Jeff. All right, you're going to handle this next one too? Okay. Discussion and possible action on adopting ordinance number 25-06, rezoning parcels 05-200-0040, 05-200-0047, and 05-200-0048, located at 1215 South, 100 East, from residential district R1-8 to residential multiple district RM1 or RM16. Okay, Jeff.
So these are three parcels that are between, let's see, good map. These three parcels and the county parcel hasn't been updated to show the other two. But the cell tower now is in its own parcel, and then everything from the cell tower up to the old Palmer house is the other parcel. So the applicant asked that we rezone these to match the multifamily that's going next door, and then with the annexation area, there will be a development now on that corner that kind of fills in from 100 East to the Malad River. Well, to the top of the flood zone, I will say that.
So is it Keith that's asking for this?
Micah.
Oh, Mike owns that house now? And Keith just owns the store and the cell tower place?
I don't know who owns the cell tower. Cell towers used to just be like permanent leases, like they just had an easement, and according to Micah, the laws now changed and they get their own parcel. So because the map isn't updated, I'm not sure who has ownership now over the parcel and how that kind of works, because I don't know if it's been deeded over
sold it.
to the actual utility company or if it's owned by Micah, and that anyway, with that change, I'm just not clear on how the land ownership for that one parcel is.
On exit real quick.
How many potential units are going to come in there?
I'm not sure the parking requirements are really gonna control how much the parking and the storm drain requirements are really gonna control how the site can be configured. With the steep drop off to the Malad along the east side and the fact that there will have to be some road frontage improvements, I'm just not sure how many. I haven't looked at the topography either, but
Has there
Are they
been,
gonna take that house out? The house
Oh,
on the
no.
corner? Oh,
has there been any opposition to these changes that you're aware of?
so.
cause across the street's already apartments, correct?
Yeah, they're all townhomes zone, and that's why he's just trying to match the zoning that's across the street. And I think given the tight topography and the general cost of land development, I understand how this zone's, I don't think he's gonna max out the units per acre that the zone requires with just the general site constraints.
It's weird, Onyx still shows Palmer's owns it all, but even the cell tower, it's not cut out or nothing.
Any other questions for Jeff?
It certainly flows into that area, the Malad being the boundary. It makes sense to allow it in my mind.
Okay. Thanks, Lyle. All right, I'll entertain a motion on 25-06.
I'll make the motion, we approve 25-06.
I'll second it.
Brett will.
Motion by Wes and seconded by Blair and Brett. Let's see, Lyle, I think you're up.
Lyle Vance, yes.
Blair, yes.
Bo, yes.
Wes, yes.
Brett, yes.
Okay, motion passes. Let's move on to item number 8, the consent agenda. Adoption, I'll just kind of go through these. We'll just vote on them all as one item. Adoption of the February warrant register, the financial statements, and then the discussion. Is this a ratification, kind of a ratification sort of thing here? I just wondered about that. On 25-12, yeah, it is ratifying. I see that now. And the completion of Archibald Estates Plat M. Discussion and consideration of adopting resolution number 25-13, appointing a Public Works Director. I think we've gone through all of the, anyway, council, we have a consent agenda before us. And by doing that, just so everybody understands, by adopting the consent agenda, we just approve of all 4 items there.
Well, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as written.
A motion by Blair,
I second it.
is that Brett?
Lyle.
No, it's
Oh,
Lyle.
Lyle, okay. All right, motion by Blair and seconded by Lyle Vance. All in favor?
Aye.
I
Any opposed?
don't have an opposed, but I need to, I think that we still want to look into keeping an assistant public works director.
You want to bring that up in your comments a little bit down there?
I can do it
That's
there.
a great idea. I think that's something we could.
Can I ask a couple questions on the warrant register?
Sure.
Is that,
Yeah, absolutely.
is this the time for that?
Yep.
There's a $10,000 expense for Hemco. What is that consulting fee?
How much?
10,000?
Okay, that is, Dave, he's our guy that is getting, going after funding for us, and he's the one that
Okay.
got the $2 million. And
Okay, got it.
that's what that is.
And then ClearGov, are we using that software? What is ClearGov? There's a $14,000 expense for ClearGov.
Software that,
Is it,
what you guys bought, or is that
I just want to make sure we're
financial?
utilizing whatever it is.
Getting the
Yeah, I mean, if we're paying that much for software, that we're utilizing the features and.
don't have an answer for that right now. Do you? Does?
And the only reason I ask that isn't that I'm pointing out, it just if there's ever waste, software is a really good way to find waste.
Yeah, for sure.
Being in the software business, we have clients that buy that gym membership and don't utilize it, you know? And I just want to make sure that we're actually using ClearGov as a software.
Let's,
look into that.
Bill,
I'll
can
get
you
you
look
an
into that and report back on that as soon as possible?
And then landmark design, I assume that's
Sam?
That's
okay. Things that are
okay,
okay. All right. I just wanted to clarify
Great.
some of those.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing those up.
Yeah.
questions. Thank you.
We'll get back we'll get back on very shortly on that.
Thank you.
Get that clarified.
Pass that down.
All right, council, moving on here, calendar items, the review of the calendar.
What time's the 22 and 29th meetings?
Let's, those will be budget, you know, we used all the time up tonight, and then some. So is it all right if we try to meet at 5 o'clock to hammer through this, or 5 or 5:30?
I'm asking, buddy. I'm not-
Well, I think we ought to.
You're the boss.
Okay, well, I think we ought to meet at 5 o'clock. And if we get everything kind of covered by the 29th, maybe we don't have to meet that early, but let's start at 5 o'clock on the next one, on the 22nd.
Got that one in.
And the 29th, let's kind of leave that open. We don't know for sure yet. Let's see, any unfinished business items that we need to discuss before we move on to reports?
Well, the calendar, I don't know if anybody threw it on there, but the dumpsters will be out that Friday and Saturday, May 2nd and 3rd.
Oh, good.
Oh, we're still a month off, so we're good. That'll come up.
Still, I think that's good to talk about that. And they'll, can you explain where they're going to be and what the kind of the conditions are going to be this year?
Well, up till last year when we had them around town, it was right around $7,500 for in the spring and in the fall. And last fall, we put them behind the fence and had somebody there, and the cost went down to like $2,500. So you gotta have a man down there all day to check driver's licenses or city bills or whatever, but I think 75% of our stuff into them bins was coming from outside Tremont City, so it's a little tougher on them guys down there, but I think it saves us good money.
Yeah, certainly. I think it was a great thing it was a great move.
Would unfinished business, would Main Street conversation fall that
We can just.
in that?
Well, I don't know. I think let's take care of that in the comment period.
Okay.
Let's take care of it there. This is really maybe action items that we had. That we
Okay.
haven't resolved yet. But I think that with that we can move on to the, cover that in the comments. Okay, let's see, we're moving right along tonight. We're making good progress. Reports and comments, Bill?
As usual, I just want to talk about how fortunate I am to work with such amazing professionals who are dedicated and give of themselves and their talents to furthering the work of the city and really blessing the lives of the residents in Tremont. Everything from making sure that we're efficient in our use of funds by going out and soliciting contracts and making sure that the contracts are done correctly and on time, to using their own personal talents and capabilities to further the work of the city. It's an amazing time, and it's great to be working with such great people. Again, just want to highlight the work that Curtis and Lindsay and Jeff have done in putting together the spreadsheet for the budget. It's very, very clear. It's cogent. It's helpful. It's just exactly the kind of thing that we need and want. So those three individuals have really shined on this particular issue. For a couple of personnel changes, we do have an HR director that has accepted another position. So Tara will be going on to other greener pastures. And so we wish her luck in that, and we might have a little bit more to say in that when we get down to talking about the court and some changes that we might want to talk about there. But yeah, other than that, things are moving along.
All right, let's see, DRC. Jeff, do you have anything on DRC reports?
No, we've implemented we've contracted with Civic Review to handle all of our land use applications. It's moved online. It's been as smooth of a process as starting anything from scratch has been. So we're working out the kinks, but it's been really helpful, especially with our staff that doesn't work here at the city, to help communicate and centralize all of those applications. I think it's been great. We're also nearing construction season, so I'm sure the applications are going to start flying as we start getting into things more. So just kind of moving forward.
Okay. Department reports. Let's see. Chief, do you have anything more for us?
No, I think we're good on the police side.
Okay, thank you, Nuts.
He's the sole survivor of department heads.
Jesus, yeah, everybody else bugged out. All right, well, that's good. Let's go on to council reports then, and why don't we start over here with Wes? Why don't you start
I remember we gotta get back to the justice court deal.
Yes, we
I don't know
do,
when you wanna do that.
right after we get done here.
Oh. No, I gotta wish Tara good luck in her future endeavors. Hate to lose anybody because we sure got good employees and just hate to see them go. But I'm good. Just hang on to loving retirement. I'm getting good at it, so.
Doesn't take long, does it?
Nope.
All right, Brett, do you have anything for us?
Yeah, we had a great town hall discussion last Thursday. We talked about the first pillar of the goals, and it went really well. Got a lot of good input. So we're going to be doing that again. I'm hoping the fourth Thursday of the next month, or I guess it's this month. And so, if Lindsay, if you could reserve see if we have the city building available, and well, if you'll look and see if that night's available for you, then we'll go ahead and plan that again for 7 o'clock on the 4th. Thursday of the month.
And that'll be on, you'll cover the pillar, that second pillar?
Yeah, pillar 2 and 3 and 4, but we'll start with pillar 2 and see where we get.
Two, okay.
A
Sounds
lot of great input though.
24th.
4.
Is this one just going till 8 o'clock again?
Funny. We'll try to go till, it'll probably go till 8:30 and then keep Jeff from talking for a half hour more, so.
You walked right into that one.
Anything else for us, Brett?
No thanks.
All right, let's see, Lyle?
Okay, is Curtis still there?
Yeah,
Okay, just something to think about on the budget discussion. Lots of discussion happened tonight. Seems to me that it would come more into line, and again, this is just a suggestion. Last year and the year before, we have that one-page spreadsheet. It would be good to go all the way down through the budget to show the city councilman just how much money we do have available to decide what to do in capital improvements. Instead of doing it backwards, we need to narrow it down to show us how much money we actually have to talk about. It would help us make decisions, I think, more prudently if we knew how much money we actually had to spend on capital improvements. Is there any way we could do that?
Yeah, we've definitely, for the capital, we've tried to show the money available on the analysis page. It's really where we can show it, but I know Blair and Bo also commented that they would like me to give a more professional recommendation of a range of what can be spent in this year, and so when we come together on the 22nd, I'll be prepared for that.
So, that big spreadsheet is perfect because it goes through all the stuff that we have to take care of as a city, and then it gets down to the final columns, which is the capital improvements where we want to spend them, and it kind of helps. I think it'll help keep the discussions in line.
Okay, I'll work.
Thank you.
I'll work with Lindsay and make sure we got stuff available.
Thank you.
anything else for us, Lyle?
No, thank you.
All right, Blair?
And that was my concern too, is just that Curtis's recommendation, like it says there's 9 million, but we can't spend it all, or we're behind the next few years, but to know kind of where we are to do that. But the elephant in the room, I know there's people that aren't happy about the tree going, but I think it looks pretty nice. It looks different. It seems so wide, but I mean, I think where they were so big and everything, I personally think I think there's buildings that I never realized what the building's like till you drive by. So that's my opinion, and I'll stand by it, but that's all I have.
I would say it probably reflects, the feedback I've had probably reflects the survey results. There's some that love it and some that hate it, and I would say it probably about reflects the survey result. So, which the majority was to do it, right? So.
Yeah, it was a significant majority, the work that Lyle Vance did on the, going around to the property owners and the merchants, and then the survey itself, both of them reflected roughly the same information. So, do you have anything else?
Well, I was just going to echo what, Brett said, just that the town hall was great. I loved the feedback from the residents. We've got quite a few suggestions here that we can get to the two of you as you're planning, and I think that's something that would be, dog park, and there's a couple other things in there that I don't think anything is going to be necessarily new, but some great ideas.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we get that back to you appropriately.
Love it.
And as a council that we're moving forward on that. But yeah, more so for me, I think a lot of questions are coming in on Main Street game plan. What are we doing? Now that the trees are gone, how are we gonna move forward on that? So I'd love to.
The answer to that is that we're at about a 30% level of completion on the plans. We've asked him, as per the council's request, to put a budget number to it. It's going to be very, very loose and probably quite a bit higher than the bids would come in at. And so don't put a whole lot of stock into it, but just keep that in the back of your mind as you look at the numbers that he's going to pad them, because that's if you want numbers at this stage of the game, that's what we're looking at. Jeff and I have been in conversation with him, with Chris, who's working those engineering plans. Once we get your approval of it, we'll run it past UDOT. Again, not for their approval at this point, but just to let them know what's going on and keep them in the loop. We've been working with them for months, so nothing should be a surprise to them. And I say should.
Yeah.
But then we'll just keep plugging away at getting those engineering drawings dialed in. And we'll work with the Main Street Committee to work on design recommendations and things that way, including light posts and other things. And yeah, we're plugging away at it.
I think, yeah, I agree with that. One thing to, we have a certain time element on Midland Square, and we met with the veterans today, had a good meeting with them. And the area, if you can I don't have a, Jeff, can you?
Cynthia's driving. Could you pull up an aerial of the
one? What I want is that one that we were talking about today.
I don't know if she's.
Anyway, if you can just sort of imagine it. Pardon me?
Do you want a street view or area?
Aerial would be great.
And it's the one that has the demarcation.
She doesn't have the concept plan, but
That's okay. We'll just sort of just explain. So the west part of the Midland Square, part of the concern for some of the veterans is that they felt like it wasn't really clear that they were going to be able to do, make improvements to the western side of that of the square. And so we had a discussion about that, and Sam Taylor was able to sort of demarcate the area that the veterans would have available to them, that they can go to work and start finding funding and different sources of revenue and that kind of thing to make the improvements and do the memorials and different things like that. And so one thing that kind of came out from that is that they would like to have, and I think this is sort of what we're offering, is to do some kind of a resolution that, that this area is available for the veterans to make their improvements to it and do that kind of a thing. And so we're hoping that we'll be able to have Sam and Jeff and some of the others, Bill, kind of help us with the identifying or making that area so that they know exactly what it is that they have, and then maybe the conditions of what improvements they can put in. I think they still have to be run through and presented to the council just like any other sort of improvement to the city. They would run those improvements through the city and have the council approve those improvements. But as far as, being able to have access to that part of it, maybe down the road, maybe it'll change, but to start with, this is what we have. So that's kind of where we're at on Midland. We're waiting with we're anxiously waiting for the Chris's engineer's estimate and put it out, and being able to put it out to bid. And we can get started on that pretty soon. I'd like to have it completed as soon as possible. Just one other thing, we have the 100-year anniversary of the Box Elder County Fair is this year, and so there's some pretty big activities that are being planned. There's going to be a huge, well, I don't know how huge it's going to be, but it'll be significant. A horse parade. This is going to be something put on by the rodeo, and they want to do it on Monday of the fair. They will have people, their horses, the wagons, the whole 9 yards. And what they'll do is they'll start at the fairgrounds, come down Main Street, and over to the light, on Tremont, head up north to the, head up north to about 6th, and then head north, and then head west again to the fairgrounds. So there'd be that big circle there, and it'll be a parade, a horse parade, and I think it'll be just a really good kickoff to the fair. There's a lot of work being done on identifying some of that history. The Hampton Inn is going to do a play on how the Box Elder County Fair came to be, and some of the significant individuals who've made the thing work over the years. It's just exciting stuff. So it would be really cool if we had, things, wrapped up with maybe with Midland, and maybe we have some things started with Main Street. By then, it'd be really cool. So we're excited. It'll be a neat year. So anyway, and we're looking forward to League of Cities and Towns. I guess it'll be Wes, Blair, and I'll be down to, you can't go down?
No.
Okay. And I don't think Lyle's going, and I don't think that Brett is not going to be able to make it either this time. So.
Three of us, that will have no adult supervision now. You're the adult supervision, Mayor.
Okay. Anyway, we have one more item. We ran out of time during our work session to talk about the judge. And so what we'll do is, I wondered if we could just take a little bit of time and go over, let's see. Why am I not? Okay, discussion of the Justice Court. I just need to put some glasses on. Discussion of the Justice Court. There's some issues. I don't know, Bill, is this going to be you that's going to talk about? I know there's just been some question as to, do we want to continue the Justice Court?
Yeah, so that's the discussion we wanted to have. And then Curtis pointed out to Lindsay and I that the Justice Court really doesn't make us any money. In fact, it kind of loses us money every year, right?
I was trying to find the spreadsheet. I swear I sent it and I can't find it.
Yeah.
So what I did is I went back through all the way back to 2019, and I built a spreadsheet up of the, based off the audited financial statements, the fines and forfeitures that are collected versus the revenues. That's the revenues that the court brings in versus what it takes just in the Justice Court to run that department. So that doesn't include anything that might not be accounted for in the court department in the financial statements. So I know they take their money over to the treasurer, but I didn't take into account anything like that. And basically, prior to COVID, there were times when the court operated and had brought in more money than what, in fines than what was paid out or was really close. But from 2020 until, and all the way through 2024, the Justice Court has lost anywhere between, if I remember right, and I'll get the spreadsheet, it had cost the city, I don't want to say lost. The city had subsidized the court with some sort of funding source, be that sales tax, property tax, whatever, to the tune of anywhere between $50,000-ish down to last year it was closer, it was only about $11,000 that was subsidized by the general fund. But in recent years, and even prior to COVID, there were years where there is general funds that are being used to subsidize that court. So I just want to bring that to the council's attention as we're analyzing.
So what are the options that are sort of out there that we have available? I heard just turning it over to the county, the justice court at the courthouse. Is that kind of what we're?
That would be one of the options we could consider. Actually, yeah, that's what we would end up doing. We could send them over to Garland maybe as another option.
Question, if we send them, do we gotta pay?
No, we wouldn't pay. The court
I don't know
handles
enough
their
about
fines all themselves. But what costs us money is the position, the court clerk position. And if we're not bringing in enough, and the judge, the money that we'd have to pay for the judge.
bailiff that's here.
Bailiff, and there's the bailiff is relatively minor. It's one person for one day to help with the bailiff duties, but the real expense is the full-time employee. So, it's just something we wanted to talk about in light of the fact that we're looking for ways to be more efficient. This is one of the ways that we could look at saving some expense year in and year out. It is a service that obviously is being subsidized a little bit by the city. It's convenient to come here as opposed to driving down to Brigham for your court dates. But a lot of these things are being held by WebEx and Zoom type things anyway. So, you could just go home or to the library or on your phone or whatever and have your court.
Yeah, the largest expenses, if you look at the 2025 budget, the largest expenses are $80,000 in salaries and $28,000 in benefits.
28,000 in what, Chris?
Benefits.
Benefits. Sorry, benefits. So, that's 108,000 of the $131,000 budget. Your next largest line is a vehicle allowance of $6,300. So, between all of that, you're at $114,000 of your $131,000. The budgeted revenues for court fines was $90,000 this year. We brought in so far just shy of 76, so we're a little bit ahead of schedule through February. But there's a change in the judge. I don't know what that's going to do to things. It was a good chance just to reset, consider, is this a service that the city wants to look at? What does the council want to do? Knowing that it is being subsidized, the biggest point is it's being subsidized through some sort of tax.
The other thing to consider is that we wouldn't close the court altogether. We would move the court down to the district court and have them handle that. We would work out some sort of a memorandum of understanding and have them handle our court services. That leaves the door open if and when we wanted to reopen the court here. Opening a court fresh out of whole cloth is difficult, but moving the court for a period of time, even an undefined period of time, is a lot easier. And then when you wanted to reopen, again, that's something you could consider as opposed to having to establish one altogether.
That's a good idea. I like that.
I think we need to ask the people, yeah.
For me, I think there's other costs. I mean, obviously, our guys would have to drive down there.
Let's see, Dustin, why don't you come up? I'm just thinking about the person who is going to do the transcribing here.
Yeah, I'm technically not over the court. I'll tell you from operational side of things, it's gonna
You guys
create.
have to go to court.
Yeah, exactly. So we will get subpoenaed. We do have people consistently going to testify in court. Obviously, we gotta drive there, come back. I'm not opposed to it, I'll be honest. I think it is convenient. It is a luxury we have. Another option, I mean, we've been pressing Garland to close their court since I got here. It never made sense financially to have it. They don't have the caseload. And to Bill's point, how we're doing court right now today, I don't think we're getting a good ROI because it's all WebEx. I mean, we had a bailiff doing WebEx court, which is crazy to me, but it's more to figure out like the technical issues. We've been hosting it across the street at the PD. That's been a giant mess. So our plan for this week was to move it back over here. But this is temporary pain. I think there is value as a service to offer that to your citizens. But if we can afford that luxury, if not, I'd say we do cut it. We paid a little bit of extra to have our guys drive to Brigham for court. I don't see anything bad. The one thing I was going to mention, but Bill actually covered it, is from what I've heard, especially when we explored the option with Garland getting rid of their court, it is very difficult to get a new court started. But if there's a way we can work that, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I just would say, once you close the door, as the city grows, more than likely we will want to have that service, and it will likely help pay for itself, or at least cover its own cost with the growing crime and population issues. But right now, yeah, that makes sense.
Question, Chief.
Go ahead.
Since I don't know, there was a day I might have, but I don't. Is this court just for Tremont and citizens, Tremont and city citizens? You can't come from Thatcher to this court on
It's,
Monday and pay your ticket?
it's where you get a ticket. So if you're in Thatcher, driving in through and around Tremont, and you get a ticket, then you're under this jurisdiction and you pay here.
Correct.
But so it doesn't matter where you live, if you get the ticket in the city limits, you're in our
City
jurisdiction.
limits, not county.
No, not the county.
Correct, yeah. So, yeah, it could be somebody from out of state, if they got a ticket here, this is where they have to go to court. And it works that way across the map. But I like the idea, and that's kind of what we had proposed to Garland in the past, is it would make more sense to combine the courts, but I don't think we're going to get enough revenue to stay on top of it, even with Garland, because they're way in the hole. I mean, they don't even begin to touch base on what they're paying for their employees. If we incorporate other surrounding cities, maybe, because then the volume goes up. But part of the reason you're seeing the court not paying for itself is the new laws. But prior, it's been a while now, but it's actually illegal for ticket quotas, things like that. They actually used to use that as a revenue source for police departments, and it was really pushed. I remember growing up in this career and saying, hey, you will get your 10 tickets every day on patrol. And a lot of bad PR. I think it's a terrible practice. Personally, I don't like that. I'm glad we went away from it. But some of the old school mindset, especially with city leadership, is to press that for a revenue source. We don't do that anymore. And inherently, by not doing that, we are going to see less come in. But yeah, my 2 cents is if it makes financial sense, great. But I would caution against getting us in a position where we can't easily bring that court back when it does make sense for the city. But short term, yeah, if it's going to save money, I don't see anything critically wrong with it.
You know, I didn't know with court that the judge has to be 5 feet off the ground. He has to have the new
Flag.
state flag. He had some things that I didn't know. I thought we just built this for us, but
Yeah, you taught me something new. I didn't know that either.
I will.
Sure.
Just-
Yeah, jump in there.
I want to be very sensitive to the chief. I was only looking at this from a money standpoint.
Yeah.
And that, I realize there's lots of other discussion. Please have that. But I would also, there are people who will talk about how the court system comes in and audits here and some of the requirements that they have for how records are kept, certain things that have to be isolated off. And I'm not an expert to speak on those, of some of the impacts of what has to happen with that whole court process. So it was meant to be a topic. We're in a point where we could have the discussion, and I wholeheartedly say, there is impact officers, we got to consider that. There could be all sorts of options. It's just, can we have a discussion about it?
There are some expenses too, speaking about those other expenses that we haven't addressed here, but are probably imminent. For example, the security of the judge and the chambers. In Pleasant View, for example, we had to install a mag and bag kind of a setup where you walk through the magnetometer screened and make sure you didn't have any firearms. And then in Morgan County, one of the issues there was that the judge sat basically where the mayor is sitting, and at the end of a very long hallway, it was a clear, if you'll forgive the term.
Unlike this one.
Was a clear shot into where the judge was sitting, and they overcame that by actually moving the judge off to one side. And so there were walls and things in the way at that point. But initially, they're like, you need to kind of move over this way. And so that's how they handled that. But there are people who make their living off of going to these kinds of places and making sure that the judges are secure. And I think that the Association of Courts is going to be more interested and engaged in that kind of process going forward. So we may look at some larger expenses that way. I don't know what a magnetometer costs or, whatever, but those are things that we may have to consider if we continue to do our court here. So
Under the
Off
circumstances.
the cuff, I think it's a perfect time to try it down there and just secure it so we don't have to do it, because then we can see how it works, and we have a good reason.
Yeah, I agree. And one other thing, just to touch on what some of our challenges is staffing that position. So a bailiff, you need to be SFO certified. For a police officer, you have to be LEO. So it's a higher level of training. To give you some perspective, we lost a bailiff, I want to say about 2.5, 3 years ago. And he was doing both Garland Court and our court, and he was SFO certified. That job position's been listed for about 3 years, and we've had one other applicant. It's hard to attract people in this field because of supply and demand issues, let alone someone that's willing to commute in for a short day of court, making a couple bucks and then going on their way. So we've actually been expending what a bailiff would cost another bigger city because we have to use our police officers to protect that judge. So it's really not cost effective as it stands. I'm kind of in agreement. I think as long as we can keep the door open for when it does make sense, I'm totally behind it. It's going to be a little bit inconvenient, but it's nothing compared to the cost. So I would support it.
All right. Any other discussion on the judge?
What we'll do is we'll get some real numbers to it and bring it back to you with a recommendation from staff as to how we think it might look going forward, and maybe even a draft MOU between us and the Justice Court.
Is the clerk our employee?
She is. So we would find a place to figure that out.
That might be a good time for that too, right?
Shari's leaving, Tara's leaving, we've got some opportunities there. So it's a conversation we can have.
She's a good employee.
She is good.
And, even Shari's part where she was bank stuff, she's probably up on that stuff too.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Council, I guess we have, unless there's other items we need to discuss, we have one more motion.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Brett, Wes, and second by Blair. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Lyle. Thanks, Brett.
Thanks, Lyle and Brett.
Don't know where you are, but
Hope it's warm.
yeah, I hope it's raining where you're at.
It was a little tease last night.